welcome into the NBA matchup report. Here, ready and excited to talk to you about some crazy trades and some the draft that just went on. The NBA offseason, we were kind of always hinting at it as the playoffs were going on. Like, there's going to be a lot of stuff going that's going to happen. It's going to be really exciting. And it feels like the Knicks just won the championship like days ago. And now here we are. We're already like full blown into the offseason with the NBA, and it's already crazy exciting. But Jay, how you doing, man? You ready to talk?
I am good and ready to unpack this chaos.
All right, let's get straight to it because it is a lot and it's all worth talking about. If it seems like so, we'll start with the biggest thing that happened over the past week with the NBA, and that was Giannis Antetokounmpo finally being traded to the Miami Heat. Finally, this entire Giannis trade saga was frustrating from the very beginning and frustrating until the end. And then now you've even got media people fighting with each other about the reporting that even was going on with this trade as it was, being talked about. But now here we finally are. We have Giannis to Miami. And we can talk here in a second about like everything that was swapped for it. But like just in general, I just want to hear your thoughts about Giannis himself just being in Miami.
So, my initial thoughts, and I know this is, I think we need to read off the details first because then that explains like
Okay.
why I had the reaction I did. So, in the trade, it was Giannis and Bobby Portis both going to Miami. In exchange, the Heat get Tyler Hero, Kyle Ware, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kasparis Yoko. I'm not going to say his last name correctly. He's also part of it as
Stomp
well.
Jaku.
Jock, 3 first-round picks, 1 pick swap, and a second-round pick, which, to be honest, felt really unnecessary to just throw that one in as well. And I was just like looking through, and I was like, that is a haul for and look, I don't want to say like aging Giannis because he's still like you can still see,
He's in his prime.
yeah, he's the later half of his prime. I still look at this, and my initial thought was like, that is a lot. Like in this trade, you're getting like the Heat are getting, or excuse me, Miami. I literally Milwaukee. It's been a long day. Milwaukee is getting 2 great young bigs in Jaime Jaquez Jr., who was literally a runner-up for 6th Man of the Year, Kyle Ware, who's continuing to develop and is showing flashes of being really great, and then you get an instant scorer in Tyler Hero, who can come in and score 20, 25 a game for you. So I look at this, and that's not even counting the first-round picks, where it's like, all right, like if you hit on even a couple of these, like you come away like looking like a genius in this.
Yeah.
But on the other end of this, it's like Miami is, and the other aspect of this, yes, Miami is getting Giannis, and even at this whatever age it is, like it's you could say he's past his prime, and I personally think he's a little bit past his prime. He's still going to be impactful. The injuries are, I think, are a concern, which is why I say he's past his prime. I think like not only the prime part, but like the injuries to me, like it makes it shaky. But it's still Giannis, and you think about the defensive like output this team is going to have between Davion Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, Giannis Antetokounmpo, like Andrew Wiggins. Like it is going to be damn near impossible to score when that like starting lineup is on the court for them. So I look at this and say like the defensive potential, obviously the offensive potential that Giannis has, and the slashing role that he has in pairing alongside Bam Adebayo, it's going to be tough for like bigs to be able to cover them. I still look at this, and this was my other big concern with this is that I was like, all right, who does Miami have left? Like, besides Bam, because it feels like it's, and yes, Davion Mitchell, I mentioned, I think is a really underrated talent in the league, but I was like, their bench, like, it really is just like it. It's going to be a bunch of bums, respectfully, but
Oh, come on, Bobby
but
Portis.
okay, well, Bobby Portis, yes. But even then, like, I don't trust Bobby Portis at this. Like, a couple years ago, yeah, I'll be like, Bobby Portis off the bench, phenomenal. Like, now I'm like he may show flashes of something, but all of that, like, it goes out the window if this is any other team and any other coaching staff.
Yeah.
This is the Miami Heat. This is Eric Spoelstra. He could take me and get me on the court, and I'd be contributing for this team coming off the bench. I look at that and say, like, because of that, like, I still see this as a win for Miami. I just think Milwaukee comes away just a little bit better in this.
Yeah, I mean, I've been on like back and there's actually been a couple trades that have happened recently that I'm like like on the fence about. I do think Milwaukee comes out of this better in a way. I think it's with you like Miami. The bench thing is weird, but it's also like we don't even fully know who their starters are going to be. Like it's more than likely that Norman Powell is probably going to like leave. There is a market for him out there now. Of course, Miami has its benefits, being the city itself, and then also the tax breaks that you get for playing there. So maybe that would be enough to incentivize Norman Powell to stay. but like he's a free agent right now, so you actually don't even know if he's going to be there. I do like that you still have Andrew Wiggins and Davion Mitchell, like you said. Like I think Davion Mitchell being like a defense first, like distributing like point guard,
Yes.
that works out well for this team because obviously the ball is going to be in Giannis's and Bam's hands a lot. And then you just need shooters around them, and Wiggins can shoot pretty well, and we know what he can do just with the ball in his hands in general. So it's like they have a solid starting four at the moment that we can confirm probably. I mean, who knows if something else happens? But you're right. Behind that, you got like Bobby Portis, who, okay, like maybe we see like a triple-ish big kind of lineup, and we've watched people struggle to get past that. But then Pelle Larsson, who has shown signs and I think could continue to develop and be a decent player. Jovic, and then like then you're like, okay, Fontecchio, you're getting maybe significant minutes here. So there's obviously still some more moves to be made here in the margin, and I guarantee you we're probably going to see another Antetokounmpo there in Miami at some point, just because it just feels obvious. But at the end of the day, and this is actually kind of like a conversation I want to have with you in general. It feels like, I know, like I said, the offseason over yet. Miami can still make a lot of moves here to fill out their bench and their depth and all that. But what I'm worried about is all the money they already have tied into their starters and all that. Are people now going to see what the Knicks did with mainly using their starting five to, blow their way through the playoffs and win the finals, barely using the bench that they had? Like, not that they didn't get bench contributions from guys like Mitchell Robinson and Landry Shamet and whatnot, but like it was mainly the starting five doing that. Our team's not going to look at that and start going like away from what we've seen in the past few years, where it's just like, well, we need to worry about our bench depth a little bit less, and we just need a starting five to stay somewhat healthy throughout the season, so that when we get to the playoffs, they can go, blast off. I don't know if that's exactly what's happening here, but it feels like some of the trades that we've seen almost like signify that.
We talked about like a couple months ago, like the meta of the NFL. And I think the meta of the NBA, in my opinion, won't change because of this. I think like teams like for the next season may think like, oh, this is the moves until you see the result. Because I still look at this team and say like, I don't think it's good enough to beat the Knicks. Like, especially you don't know Giannis's like health fully. Like you don't know to what status and how many games you're going to get from him when he's on the court. He's playing for you. It's going to be phenomenal. That's guaranteed.
Yeah, he's a top 5 player when healthy.
Yes. My question is like, and yes, like I mentioned, like Eric Spoelstra could develop the hell out of anybody. We've seen so many random bench players just like that. They can grab G League guys, undrafted guys. Like think about like how many like Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson, like all these guys that like
one of the Martin brothers.
Spo like builds them up, develops them, and then they sign for the Lakers, and their career goes to waste after that. But I still look at this and say like they're going to develop really well. No matter who it is, but I still think like this just isn't going to be consistent long term. And we've seen that where it's like, yes, like the Knicks like are a very front heavy team when it comes to the starting lineup. It still had like you mentioned, you have Landry Shamet coming off the bench, you have Jose Alvarado coming off the bench. I think they're going all in method is why we're starting to see, like Miami and we'll talk about the Timberwolves later, like going all in, but I don't think it's sustainable when you compare to teams like San Antonio who have built their youth and experience for years to come. OKC who have done the same thing. I know like obviously the championship window because the second apron is short either way. Like especially those young teams, like the second apron is always looming, and we saw like OKC winning, and now they're talking about, oh, we need to trade away guys to make the cuts. But I still look at this and say that's going to be a lot more sustainable than it is like sending all your draft picks to another team. Just because we've constantly seen, not even just the past couple of years, but the reason OKC is the way they are now is because of them being MVP Paul George. The Clippers are like, we're going all in. We need to, get Kawhi, and we saw the results of that, and we're still seeing the ramifications of that still play out. So I just think the meta won't change, and that we'll still see that these young teams in San Antonio, OKC, and even a team like Utah, I think, even Washington, who are going to have a lot more success.
Yeah. I mean, it's, we had the Knicks saying F them picks after their win, and then now it feels like, I mean, that is an insane amount of picks to give up. But but like real quick on the Milwaukee side of this, I mean, they get an infusion of a good young talent. Obviously, they get a lot of picks and assets to help them build for the future. And they brought in a good coach at the beginning after the season for them to move forward with, and I still think there's some moves for them to make. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they moved on even from some of the players that they got, like Tyler Herro. Like he was talking about, like, he's excited to play in his his home kind of town, or not hometown, but you know what I'm saying. Like this is basically home for him. And then I don't know. Like I would think they would probably keep Jaime Jaquez, and you can have Ryan Rollins start for you, and Usman Dieng is still there and doing well for you. Kello Ware, I think, was an awesome addition. Like
Yes.
I'm a big Kello Ware fan. Like I think he could play really well for them, especially alongside Miles Turner, as Ware continues to develop. So like I don't think Milwaukee's complete yet. Like I don't think this is like a
Oh
team
no.
you're looking at that you're scared of in the East or anything like that. But I do think this was a good start for them to move on from the Giannis era. Like this was a good
Yes.
way to like skip some steps basically and get yourself in a spot where you kind of almost gave yourself like a head start compared to most teams who have
Yes.
to like move on from their franchise player.
Exactly. And my whole thought with this is that like I look at this and it was a lose-lose for Milwaukee because it's like if you trade Giannis, you're going to have the entire city to some degree be like this is our franchise player. This is a cornerstone of not just the franchise and organization, but the city. Like
Yeah.
it's a big move to do something like that. You'll get a lot of backlash, and they definitely have from like long time Milwaukee fans. At the same time, if you wait another year and Giannis walks in free agency and you get nothing from him, different conversation of like you like you said, like you don't get that head start of having first round picks to build around and say like this is what we have set in line for post Giannis era. It's like all right, we're trying to attract free agents to Milwaukee, and it's like it's hard to do that when you don't have any talent. Like imagine a post Giannis team without the additions that they made. It's like, oh, come play with Kevin Porter Jr. and Usman Dang it had a breakout season. Like this is appealing. Like
Yeah.
it wouldn't be. So I look at this and say like it was the best move for them, and like you said, I like the idea of like calling it a head start.
Yeah, and one funny thing I have with like a lot of these trades that we're going to be talking about is all the really like further in the future first round picks, like 2033. And it's
Yeah,
like, because we were a lot of the talk this weekend was about like, oh, the Paul George trade has finally ended after all these years. And that feels like forever ago. And we're going to be doing the same thing with a lot of these trades with the one we just talked about, with some of the others that we're talking about. Like a lot of these picks are going to go to 2033. And then it feels like that's happening more and more and more. I don't know if that's going to happen as much with like, all the changes coming to the NBA, but it is funny to think that there's going to be people whose like whole part of their jobs now are going to be to track like, okay, this trade happened. Here's all the like the
yeah,
parts that sected off of that, and like now we got to track like these are all the results of this trade, and this is when it finally ends. And it's like we're going to wait like 7 years from now to like figure out what the end result of this trade is, and like 7 years from now, Giannis might not even be in the NBA, but hey, man, we'll say it was good to see it finally happen. I expressed my frustration with Giannis and the whole trade situation from like basically the beginning because of how he and both the team handled it. It just felt very annoying and like it was just a lot of platitudes and just saying stuff like tongue in cheek and no one wanted to be the bad guy, but everyone wanted to like. It felt like Giannis was the one who wanted to separate more, but the Bucks were just kind of like, we'll try. But then like when they make the
yeah,
trade, and it's like part of me thinks that like in the fans' eyes, like I don't think you're happy with it, but at the end of the day, you're kind of like this was expected. Like it wasn't like it came out of nowhere. Like this was like I feel like as a Milwaukee fan, I'd be like, okay, good. Like it's finally over. Like let's just move on from this.
yeah,
Like thank you, Giannis. Love the ring. Good luck in Miami, I guess. But
yeah.
all right, let's move on to the
Wait,
next
wait,
one.
time
But
out. Before we
oh
move
yeah,
on, I want to ask you while we're on the topic
mm-hmm.
of like crazy. We knew you were getting traded. What saga do you think was worse, the AJ Brown or the Giannis one?
Ooh,
I'm going AJ Brown solely because there was a lot of like behind the scenes reporting of like all the diva stuff. I think that to me ties into it. Like as much as like Giannis was like being diva-ish, it wasn't to the level of an NFL receiver. That's something different for me.
I mean, there's similarities in it to why I'd be annoyed with both, though. It's like AJ Brown was doing all the
Yeah,
behind the scenes, like shady stuff where it's like, okay, dude. And then on his way out, he like signs and does all that crap. But Giannis was doing a lot of it too, but at least he just left. Like he at least he just left, I guess. And then like it's hard for me not to be like biased about it because it's like the AJ Brown stuff, like, and especially I mean, we're gonna get to like the Eagles real quick. Like the Devontae Smith, like I am one of the biggest Devontae Smith fans out there.
I
Like
am too.
that was one of the
My
fastest
skinny
jerseys I
king.
ever
I
bought
have no
after a
choice.
draft. Like I have his black jersey in my closet, and like it was what I was wearing throughout the entire playoff run when they went to the Super Bowl. It was my lucky jersey. So like to me, in my mind, the AJ Brown stuff was annoying, but at the same time, I was like, you know what, we got Devontae Smith, so we're good. But
Yeah.
I don't know, yeah, small tangent, but yeah, the lesson there is Devontae Smith is our god. All right, let's move on to the next trade. We got LaMelo Ball being moved to the Minnesota Timberwolves. It was LaMelo Ball and Josh Green moving to the Timberwolves. The Hornets in return get Naz Reid, a 2023 unprotected first round pick, 3 first round pick swaps going through the next 3 years, and then 3 second round picks, 2029, 2032, 2033. So a lot there, but ultimately I think it really did just come down to the Charlotte's got Naz Reid, a first round pick, and then it was just like a bunch of swaps after that.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of what you can boil it down to. So what was your initial reaction to this one?
So my initial reaction, and I kind of text you it was why. And my whole thought was, we saw literally earlier in the day, like or maybe it was last night, like whenever it was, like Ayo Dosunmu just got paid, like 5-year, $100 million contract. And I'm like, damn, like that is perfect, right? Like he had a crazy good offseason for you, or postseason for you. And he showed that he could be the post Mike Conley era point guard, to like lead that era for them, and kind of take away some of the struggle for Ant on the offensive end when all teams are focusing on him. And we've seen that he's a fucking beast on the defensive end. So I was like, all right, like great addition. Like you got him locked in. All right, now we'll get to the Randall part of this. I had already got rid of Julius Randle, which I was like, I think it's good. Like, what do you add to go replace the Julius Randle hole? And then they went and added LaMelo Ball, and I was like, why? Like, I didn't see a purpose for that. And like, there is a purpose, right? Like, you want another ball handler. I understand that. I think, to me, like in my opinion, Ayo could play that role for you, and there was no need to go out and get LaMelo Ball, knowing the off the court issues as well. And I'd like, on a little side tangent, the thought of like Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball for like immediate training, like the PR staff trying to get them under control, like good luck. But and even Jaden McDaniels, like for the postseason stuff too. That was more funny though. Like,
he gets a pass.
Yeah, and to be fair, he backed it up to be like, yeah, like not, you know.
But that's the Anthony. That's kind of like the Timberwolves in general, because of all these playoff runs that they've had, where they keep going to these like conference finals until this last year. It was like basically like, hey, you know what? Like Ant and them, they keep saying it. Like the moment Ant said the whole like, yeah, they got Kevin Durant, but we got Jaden McDaniels, and then they swept the Phoenix Suns right after that. You were kind of like, all right, yeah, he can probably just kind of say what he wants at this point. I mean, he was talking trash to the president, or not the,
former president.
He was former President Obama, but yeah, you know what I'm saying.
So that's just a funny thought of just like the PR staff trying to get them all in control. Like, like who did it again? And they're like trying to figure out, like, every time there's breaking news, like, was it LaMelo? Was it Ant this time? Like, we got to get under control. But I like from a tactical standpoint, I can understand it as like, yes, you have not just another playmaker, but another scorer, and you can balance to some degree where it's like LaMelo Ball, like in Charlotte, he was given a green light to take as many shots as he want, and we saw that. And I'm gonna be interested to see what the reeling back process of that looks like, because Ant is that guy for them, where it's like he gets all those shots, he gets all those opportunities, and LaMelo is going to have to take a more playmaking side, kind of Robin role to Ant's Batman, which I don't know how well that's going to go. Either way, like I just don't think, after giving Ayo the contract that you did, it makes sense to bring in someone to literally replace him, because now you look at this and it's like Ayo's like 6'4", like you're not going to run a three guard lineup. I know LaMelo's a bit taller, but Ayo's defensive role could play him on the court in situations like that, but that's not going to be the consistent starting lineup that you roll out every time, where it's like LaMelo and Ayo as your three, like, guards. Like that, to me, I don't think makes sense. So either you're running Jaden McDaniels at the 3 and you're looking for a 4, or running Jaden McDaniels at the 4 and looking for a 3. Like there's still a big hole in this team for me. So that's what I look at and say, like, I think they already had answers, and I would have much rather them go out and get a backup, guard in free agency to take away some of the second unit playmaking, opposed to getting a guy to do the first unit wanted and demoting like Ayo to essentially a 6-man role for them. And which makes sense in the place of Naz Reid, who was that 6-man spark for you. I just don't like it, because I think it filled a hole that wasn't necessary. Like, and now I still look at this and say, like, you need to go out in free agency and get a forward to go fill another hole that you created, trading away Naz Reid.
Yeah, they've been linked to like a John Collins type now since this has happened.
Yeah,
I am okay. This might be surprising. I'm actually going to push back on your point a little bit here, because while I am a big Ayo Dosunmu fan, and like I do think he's like an excellent player and he's worth the money that they spent to keep him there, I do think the prospect of going into your season and into the playoffs next year with him as like your lead, like primary ball handler, I don't think that was going to be the successful way going forward.
Yeah.
And I do think, and I'm not saying LaMelo Ball was the right person to bring in exactly to be your primary ball handler. Not that he's not a great playmaker or anything of that sense, but like for the reason that you mentioned, where it's like, okay, like, are you going to be able to control him on and off the court? You know, with like the speeding stuff and him running over like fans' feet and things like that with his car. And then, you know, like, are you going to be able to rein him in on the court to where it was like LaMelo had a fantastic season, right? And he finally played most of a season, which was like one of the big concerns with LaMelo. And partly why you can understand why Charlotte moved on from him was all the injury stuff. Like the previous 2 years, I think, before this last one, I think he had played just about as many games in those 2 seasons combined as he did this last season. And so it's like when you have injury-riddled players like that, and look, trust me, as a Sixers fan, like I get it. Like it's tough, and I can understand a team moving on like while you're selling high, basically.
Yeah.
Should they have probably done it earlier? Maybe, but the Charlotte Hornets just had like their best season in however many years, and a large part of that was because it was led by LaMelo Ball, especially in the second half of the season, where this was the most exciting offense in the NBA that we were talking about constantly. Be able to do, especially on offense, but then as they updated and did better with their defense as well as the season went on. So I'm pushing back you into this a little bit because I do think LaMelo Ball fits the role that they kind of like. He fits like what they need from a primary ball handler who can play make for you. He can be an elite scorer at times, and when he is focused, he can also be a very good, or not, he can be a decent defender for you as well. But then when you have a team with Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Rudy Gobert, you're not asking him to like guard the number one guys. It's like you can almost hide him on defense in that way. But yeah, and then on offense, you're right. It's just like, look, Ant is 1. LaMelo would be 2 in this situation. So it's like, but Ant is also better off ball. While he did evolve in front of our eyes this season again and become a better on the ball, we saw once you got to the playoffs, there was a lot of Mike Conley and other guys, probably because of injury, obviously. But, like it wasn't the best role for Anthony Edwards. He is best fit to be that 2 off-ball guard who can score for you when needed and play defense and do what Anthony Edwards does. So, yeah, with the LaMelo trade, like I'll push back a little bit on your point about Ayo just because I do think LaMelo fits a role for them like as like the primary playmaker for them and ball handler, where it's just something they desperately needed when they were going to Mike Conley late in the season, partly because of injury. But like you could tell that they weren't prepared for the losses that they had, and that they desperately needed someone who could take over for you in a game like that. You could rely on to make like the smart passes and be a guy that the defense had to respect in that sense. So now I think this just opens up a lot more for Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels and guys like that. And we'll see what other moves they have to make because they definitely like you said they need to round out I think both the center and the forward, just the front court in general. They need to round that out a little bit more. But a backcourt with where you still have, I think they'll still probably have Bones Highland and Ayo off the bench, which they were a lot of fun coming off the bench together, being able to push the pace like the way they did. They really did have something there with those 2 off the bench. You still have Terrence Shannon Jr. and Jalen Clark who are developing, and they look good at times during the postseason. We saw what happened with them. So, like, that depth is now good, it feels like. I think their backcourt is fine. Now you just kind of need to find like a true 4 for them, and then maybe someone to like help back up Jaden McDaniels and Rudy Gobert. So they gave up a lot, and I do think they're going to miss Naz Reid at times and what he brought to the table, obviously. But I think, like you said, that's where you're hoping Ayo can make up for in those margins. I don't know. Like, while LaMelo has his issues on and off the court at times, like we mentioned, where it's like, you kind of got to rein him in with his driving off the court and on the court, where you're like, hey, maybe make better decisions in both sense. And, try not to take the bad shots and like early in the clock that kill possessions for us. And, just kind of like let the game come to you, because we saw like in the first half of the Charlotte season where, we were talking about this being like in the second half of the season, Charlotte was like one of the most exciting offenses in the NBA, and they were one of the better offenses in the NBA. But it took a while because in the first half of that season, like basically like the 2025 portion, LaMelo had to be reined in. Like they had to be like you could tell like Charles Lee, like it was reported, like they had a whole conversation with them being like, look, like we need to focus in, rein in, we need to be better on defense, and we just need to play smarter. We need to stop taking bad shots. We need to relax on some of these errant passes, and we just need to play smart and smooth basketball, which they started to do, and like they were just exploded to one of the better offenses in the second half. A large part of that was because of LaMelo Ball and what he can do for you as a playmaker. So, I mean, you're hoping that with like a different system, like with Anthony Edwards there, less pressure on LaMelo Ball probably, that like, we can continue to see him evolve and hopefully stay healthy. Because this could, like on paper, this potentially could be a very dangerous and fun like offense. You just have to wonder like health and like maturity wise, like are they going to be able to be consistent with it? Because that to me is the biggest thing with LaMelo Ball is just the consistency of his play.
Yeah. The reason why I'm so confident in Ayo being their lead playmaker is because I think we've seen, for me personally, looking at the development of Anthony Edwards, and I think a lot of that, yes, goes to Anthony Edwards, and we've seen how like determined he is to improve his game. I think the Timberwolves, that coaching staff and their training and everything deserve a lot of credit for developing him. And every offseason, you mentioned this all the time, like it's something new every year that we see him develop, and whether that's a 3-point shot, the mid range, and just being more aggressive, like all of it is putting himself together. And I think the way Ayo was kind of not only thrust into the Timberwolves, but then thrust into the elite playmaker role, like straight out of Chicago, the guard purgatory. Like I think he came in and did well, and I think giving them an off season and a full season with him as a lead playmaker and developing him into that role, I think you could have had time to develop that, especially with the off season. And like I said, like bringing in to me, it's cheaper to get a backup point guard than it is to like forwards, especially. Like I think they're so essential in today's game, and even centers as well. Like to try to like fill those holes opposed to a backup point guard role. To me, that's where I look at this and say I would have preferred you just run with Ayo and develop him and teach him to develop to be that better playmaker for you, because I think he's capable of it. So. Either way, like you can't go wrong with their backcourt. Now it's the front court and the cost that they gave up in Naz Reid.
Yeah, and like I said, there's still probably some moves to be made there, but we'll see. Let's talk about though why they probably have to make moves there in the front court, because they traded the Minnesota Timberwolves. They traded Julius Randle to the Brooklyn Nets. Talk about purgatory. Julius Randle is back in New York, just not with the team we probably would want to be with. It was part of like a 3-team deal where the Timberwolves got forward Mo Gay from the Bulls and a second-round pick. The Bulls got Nick Claxton from the Nets, which I thought that was really good for them. Whether or not he's going to be a starter off the bench for them, I think that's a great presence for them there. And then, Julius Randle and a first-round pick go to the Nets. I felt better about this trade after the draft happened, like in the days following, because of now like the person that they drafted there earlier, which we'll talk about later. And then I do think Julius Randle and Michael Porter Jr. being on the same team is a funny thought, and one that'll be interesting for us to watch throughout the season, of like who can stay in control and not lose their mind and just take a million shots and forget ball movement. But I mean, we'll see. And then part of me is like, all right, what's the Nets plan going forward here? Is Day'Ron Sharpe about to get as many minutes as I think he is? I mean, I kind of hope so, because I'm a big fan of his and his development. But yeah, this on the Nets side, I thought this was really interesting, especially after the draft.
Yeah, for me, like my first thought was, and this is like when you think back to last offseason, there were 3 players the Timberwolves had that they were looking at free agency wise: Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Julius Randle, and Naz Reid. And they said, oh, we are a team that loves to run size, and they let Nickeil Alexander-Walker walk, and they re-signed Julius Randle and Naz Reid. And look where we are now, where neither one of them were on their team, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker is the reigning 6th man of the year. And I look at that and say, like, damn, like now you understand why they pulled the trigger on
he's reigning most improved player.
Oh, most improved player. Did I say 6th man?
Yeah,
my bad. Most improved player. I just look at this and say, like, I understand why they wanted to pull the trigger, and it's like retroactively, like that's why I look at this and say, like, they at least are owning up to their mistakes of like we messed up, and you see the way Nickeil Alexander-Walker is playing, and it's like, yeah, we need to for some reason go out there and like try to rectify it in some way to build a more supporting cast around Ant, because when contract season comes, is he going to want to stay there if you're not putting pieces around him that are actually benefiting him? This feels like that move to be like, hey, see, like we're doing everything we can, just trust us, give us patience, like work through it with us, and we're here to like build the team around you. And I think this is a decision, not just like we would talk about like cap space and everything. Like this is, to me, felt like a big cap space decision, especially when you consider like not just the Julius Randle aspect of this, but like how he played in the postseason. Like where you look at it and like he had a really good regular season, and then he gets to postseason and it's like, you're seeing the same things that have held you back for the past couple of years. And I think this was fully exemplified in it. And you were like, we need to make a change. Like last year, we messed up in the offseason. This is the time to, own up for it before going another season and being like, oh, we're here again. And now Ant's frustrated. So I fully understand. And like, I like this for the Timberwolves and going in a different direction. But I still just look at this and say like, dang, like if they could, get a chance to do this over, like they 100 times would last offseason just to better fix this team and go in a different direction. Yeah. And on the Bulls side of this, I like Nick Claxton is a great ad. And it's funny because I literally called the Bulls like, guard purgatory, and they still are. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, they finally traded for somebody who isn't, a guard. And this is the first one I was like, I'm actually proud of the Bulls for not not being like, what is asking for one of the 5, guards that the Nets drafted last season. Be like, what is he doing? So this is
they got a new GM in there. He probably looked at his roster and was like, what the hell? He's like, look at all these guards.
So yeah, I think both sides, and then there's a third team. Yeah, no, all three I think came away with exactly what they wanted to in this, where it's like Brooklyn and Chicago had a lot of cap space. Like Minnesota said, all right, with Julius Randle, we're shipping you off to one of them. It happened to be Brooklyn, so he's in purgatory, but I'll give Chicago some flowers for once and just say like I think this is a really good move, and the new GM and everything seem to be like this is heading in a good direction as well as their draft.
Yeah, they've had a good past few days. I mean, like you said, between the draft and the trades, they've really added to their wings and their front court and we'll talk about who they drafted later, but like I think adding Nick Claxton in there, like he can be a solid starting center for you who can rim protect, and like he's not much of a shooter, but like he fills a role for you that you need when you have a team with this many guards who can do what they do between Giddey and Sexton, and I don't know where some of these other guys like Simons and all them end up by the time we start the season, because I do still think there's some moves to be made. But like, I mean, they do need to start thinking forward with guys like Matas Buzelis, who is developing into a star in this league. He's already borderline there. You draft a guy like Caleb Wilson, who we'll talk about, and then Josh Giddey is still there doing. Hopefully he gets back to his kind of like triple double playmaking ways now with a better team around him. But like it's like you said, like I do like what Chicago's been doing. Like this has so far been a good offseason for them. Yeah. And then Minnesota, the cap space stuff. Julius Randle was like their leader in assists for like the past couple of years, but now you bring in an actual point guard who can play make for you in that sense. So you kind of like found a way to replace that and probably upgrade it from that sort of role aspect. So I don't know. Brooklyn, like I said, I don't know. What Brooklyn is doing ever, but they hopefully I think this offseason so far they've helped make up for their transgressions of their past draft, where
a little bit, yeah,
they just went dud after dud.
The one thing we didn't talk about, we kind of skipped over the Charlotte aspect of the Naz Reid trade. I think that's a good landing spot for Naz Reid, and I think especially when you consider the the landscape of Charlotte, like I think. They weren't in Bulls territory of guard heavy, but I do think adding Coby White, ironically from the Bulls, I was a bit interested to see what that would look like long term. And they said long term, like LaMelo is, we're moving on, and I think for that, like it makes sense why you get a guy like Coby White who can be that starting guard for you. And especially now, it not only gives Coby White full guard play, but it gives Canupo full you are our guy. I think moving forward. Obviously, Brandon Miller.
I was gonna say I'm more of a Brandon Miller fan than Con, but
yeah, I the Con consistency and especially the way he played in the postseason really hurt him a lot. But he's a rookie, and I think we've seen that not everyone can be Dylan Harper when it comes to the postseason. But he still had a phenomenal rookie year. So either way, it is. I think it's fair to say it's a co-era of Brandon Miller and Canupo, because I don't think either one is fully a 1A just yet, or just a 1. It's 1A 1B. But
I like the Charlotte roster. I'm really I do think Coby White full-time point guard is going to be interesting. I do want to see how that looks on a team that's trying to win. Because not that Coby White is a bad basketball, I do think he's a really good basketball player, but he hasn't had this kind of responsibility before on a team that's actually trying to win. So that'll be a good test for him. Not to shame the Bulls, but the Bulls are the Bulls.
Yeah.
The only thing about the Charlotte Hornets depth chart I really don't like is they still have that guy number 0 at power forward. But like I'm
Yeah,
hoping that like
that
with
was.
everyone else that they have in the front court and maybe like Naz Reid can help with that too, that maybe that helps them move on from him because
Yes.
I don't think that guy really does that much for your team that you need to keep him. Like I don't know. Like
I
you have like
literally I kept seeing memes. They were like, he outlasted LaMelo Ball somehow, which I was like, if you would have said
actually
like which
nuts.
one gets traded first, traded, cut, whatever it is, like it's off the team first, I would have said 0.
Yeah, but it's like I'm looking at this roster. I'm like, all right, you got Kobe White, Conkanipple, Brandon Miller, you got Naz Reid, you got Kalkbrenner, you've got
Musa
Diabate,
Diabate.
like Naz Reid, like these are like this is a good team. Like this is a team that I'm like, okay, I'm thinking like 5 seed, 6 seed, like somewhere around there. I don't know if I'm gonna go higher than that, but like I wouldn't be surprised if they actually found a way to improve upon what they did last year because they do have a good coach and they are going in a good direction. And the roster is filled out enough that you have confidence in them from like starting and bench depth. So like I do like the direction the Hornets are going, and I like I said, I can understand why they moved on for LaMelo. I don't know if they needed to, but
Yeah.
like I can understand selling high and being like, look, with the
Yes.
injury stuff and everything else going on, we just and the money we're probably going to pay all these other young guys that we've drafted well in the recent years. We'll just move on and turn the page.
Yeah.
All right, what is the next trade that we need to talk about?
I'll make this quick. My little Aaron Wiggins goodbye. Um, I look. I knew it was going to come to this. I literally said this. I was like, I think you probably have to move on if not Isaiah Joe or Aaron Wiggins, but both. And I still stand by that, especially after the draft. I really stand by that. And I think Aaron Wiggins, like going to Atlanta, I think that is perfect fit for the Atlanta perspective, where it's like they're getting a I don't say elite because he's not elite, but someone who like I think given the room and seeing how they worked with Nikhil Alexander Walker and giving him the most improved player and even Jalen Johnson's development, like I think the Hawks are in a great place for Aaron Wiggins to come in and potentially. I don't think he'll start. I think their starting lineup is kind of solidified, but be a great like 6 man option for them, 7th man, where he can play a big crucial role in the rotation, opposed to being the 10th guy on OKC. Because I think when you saw the minutes where, especially like December, January, and like late November, where it's like everyone in OKC was hurt, and it was like, all right, like you're next man up, like let's see it. Like Aaron Wiggins was out there delivering like 20-point game or 20-point game. And it's funny, there's always the memes like in the OKC circles of like Aaron Wiggins is saving basketball. And I still think about it. That was my big one. I posted on my story after I was like, he's going to go save basketball somewhere else. And I like it's really cool because obviously he won a championship here and he had a great personal story. And he spoke at the when they did their parade, like, and he was fully drunk and like she gave this amazing speech. And I still think about that, but I'm gonna miss him on OKC team, and I think he'll do like wonders in the Atlanta system. And being a good guy for them, like an actual crucial player in the rotation off the bench.
No, I think that's a great addition for them. Not even just for like the guard room stuff, but I think he can fill in for the three for you as well. When
Yeah.
like say they're having a game where they're just like, look, our defense is like okay, but like we just need buckets. You can sub Dyson
Yes.
Daniels out and put you can put Aaron Wiggins back in there and be like, okay, because you know Wiggins can still play defense, but then he can also hoop for you as well and get you some buckets. And you know, I think it also takes off the pressure of CJ McCollum having to be like that lead guard all the time. Be like, okay, we need someone who can win an ISO, CJ, like and operate the pick and roll. You got that and then like the guy they drafted like as well adds to this. But like between McCollum, Nikhil Alexander Walker, and Aaron Wiggins, now you have some veteran depth there in the guard room where you're like you feel a lot more confident. And it takes I think the biggest thing with all this is it definitely takes a lot of pressure off of Jalen Johnson as well. While he was
Yes.
a lead playmaker for you, could do a lot for you. I don't know if that's exactly what you want to do, and then you can get an actual guard in there. Like I think that's part of why they brought CJ McCollum in. Like Jalen Johnson, like you can be our primary playmaker. I just don't know if you want him to be always be the guy like bringing the ball up and having the ball at the top of the key. It's more of like a swing. Okay, Jalen, like drive and kick out if you can because that's how a lot of this came about, anyways. So I love this move for the Hawks, and I think they're a team that definitely got better with this trade and throughout the draft as well.
Yeah.
All right, next one, and this is one I warned you pre-show. I might have a crazy take
I knew it
about
had
this
to be
one.
this. I'm interested.
All right. I tweeted out after this trade happened. This was Isaiah Stewart got moved to Memphis. And it was actually a really great move by Memphis because they had made a trade earlier to gather a bunch of like I think 5 second round picks, and they spent 3 of those to get Isaiah Stewart from the Detroit Pistons. when this trade happened, I tweeted out, and I'm trying to find it exactly, but basically I said this might be the best trade that has happened yet so far this offseason. And I'm going to include that with the LaMelo trade now that happened too. Let me explain why. Isaiah Stewart is 25 years old, and I know, besides the injury stuff that he's had to deal with at times, which is I think partly why Detroit traded him, it was contract and injury stuff. Isaiah Stewart is a willing and evolving and getting better at shooting. Right, he's a forward that can. He's one of the best defenders in the NBA. I don't know if people realize that, but if he had played a full season out there, we would have been talking about him probably being like one of the best 8 defenders in the NBA. And it's not just his rim protection; it's what he can do on the perimeter as well. He is legitimately, in my mind, an elite defender he was already a good like offensive player down low, I think, and then with his shooting, which reportedly he wants to be able to shoot more and like from the perimeter and show off that skill for him, like I think he will continue to improve on that. And like we saw him getting minutes over Jalen Duren at times because of his value, and then Paul Reed. But like I truly think going into the future, like a year or two from now, we might be looking at that trade going like, holy shit, Memphis like knocked it out of the park. I just think, and I'm not saying just because of who the player is, I just think value wise, like the way Memphis got him, like basically using 3 second-round picks that like was just like a wash anyways that they had gathered doing like a BS trade. Like the fact that they were to get Isaiah Stewart in for that and added him to a team that is building in a way that it's going to be a conducive and great for a guy like Isaiah Stewart. I'm standing by what I said, where I think this might probably could have been like the best trade that we've seen so far this offseason.
I think that's a bit of a reach.
Yeah.
I would have been like, I see where you're cooking, like before the draft. I would have been like, I can understand it. I think post-draft for me, it kind of puts it in a different light of like, I think they may have a little bit too much going on where it's like, I don't know if you can fully give him the minutes to be that.
What yes, I think especially.
About? What?
Let's talk about it. Okay, like you don't think he could start with Boozer?
I'm not saying I think the pressure of like him being the like Boozer being the 3rd overall pick, like I think, and the way he played at Duke, I think that's a situation where it's like the versatility and the ceiling that you're going to get from him, it's going to be insane. Where it's like you have to at least experiment with what that looks like, and that's where I look at this and say like I don't know what that's going to look like. Like, and to be fair, I think Memphis like. We'll talk more about it when it gets to after draft talk, but like they did a great job just completely like overhauling their roster and going in a different direction. Now I just look at this and say like, what is it going to look like? Because I look at this and say like, you made a lot of new additions. You got rid of a lot of things. I still think we're going to see some moves potentially. Like, what is it going to look like at the start of the season? And that's why I look at this and say like, there is too much uncertainty to sit here and say like, this is for sure what this is going to look like. And this is for sure who is going to be on the starting like lineup and what that looks like. But I think like Cameron Boozer, you look at this and say he's number 3 overall pick. You saw the way he played at Duke and was dominating. I think you have to be like he's our guy right at this moment.
Yeah, but this is my thing. I think you can start Cam at the 4 and Isaiah Stewart at the 5, because Isaiah Stewart with his defense, he covers.
What about Zach Edey though?
He comes off the bench. Or you do like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's a decent rotation. I think Isaiah Stewart should be your starting 5 out there with Cam Boozer, because Cam Boozer can do a lot of what you need from your big man out there, and he can be a playmaker for you. And then Isaiah Stewart can make up for the deficiencies that he has currently as a rookie, where he can bring that rim protection for you that Cam Boozer's on the offensive side. But then he can also be a shooter for you in the corner when Cam Boozer's doing whatever he does in the high or low post. And then you add that, like, obviously Ja Morant's going to be gone. Like, it's not insane that he hasn't been traded yet. It's just insane that like he's been so openly and publicly available for a trade that it hasn't happened yet is like a crazy, crazy bad sign for Ja Morant. But like you still have Scottie Pippen Jr. and Ty Jerome. I'm a big fan. Well, I think we're both big fans of Cedric Howard and what he showed during his rookie season. They added Kareem Lopez with Cameron Boozer, Jalen Wells, Gigi Jackson, Isaiah Stewart, Zach Edey, Boozer, Aldama. Like, this is a good team. Like, I'm not going to say that like we should have high expectations for them, but like, again, this is Memphis. Like you just said, this was a great pivot by them to move on to the next era. After moving on from Jaren Jackson, they're going to move on from Ja Morant, like Desmond Bane, like all that era is gone. And this is the new, like, this is the Cameron Boozer era now. Like, this is his team. And I think this could be a great start for it with the pieces that he already has around him.
Yeah. I think I just need to see it. I need to see what this is going to look like day one. And I think right now, look at this and say, like, there's a lot of uncertainty in the rotation and what that's going to look like, who's going to get minutes, what those minutes are going to look like. And I need to see, like, once we get through, like, I guess the first couple of games, I'll get it. And I know it's a general statement for everything, but like I think especially with Memphis and just how much roster change they have and just change overall, I think I'm gonna look at their team more than anything and say like I need to see it play out.
Maybe I'm just I'm too high up in the Isaiah Stewart
You
fan
definitely
club.
are because right now I think it's hard to as much as I don't like the value that the amount that they gave up for Giannis in Miami. I still look at that and say like you're getting a phenomenal player who can come in and impact day one and be that difference maker and that change, especially when Miami's been stuck in mediocrity for like every season, like the past couple of years. Like they're like the play-in champions. I think
Literally.
they're very far past that at this point. So I think for me, like that still is a standout one.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I know I was being like I literally said I found it. I said not to be dramatic, but the Grizzlies might have made the best trade yet this offseason for Isaiah Stewart. So I understand that what I'm saying is crazy, but I also understand myself and that I fully believe in the craziness that I'm saying right now. Like I will put my stamp on this tweet statement, what I'm saying right now. Like I'm backing this up. I do
I
think
will
this is a
hold you to it.
fantastic trade.
I have no choice but
Please
to hold
do.
you to it.
And hold me to it. And Isaiah Stewart, please God help me and stay healthy. But okay, because if he gives the Grizzlies like a pretty healthy season, I do think I'll look good in this.
We'll
Fully
see.
believe that. This God, Isaiah Stewart, please. I just became the leader of your fan club. Okay.
Okay, all right. We mentioned John Morant as like a potential guy to get traded.
Right.
When we're looking at the rest of before free agency and potential trades, like who else do you see as potential like trade fodder?
Well, Jaylen Brown is still in an awkward situation with the Boston Celtics.
Yes.
He loves cats, though. That's what he tweeted out during all this trade stuff going on, which I'm sure was like a funny thing for him to just do. But whatever, corny. The Celtics don't be corny challenge is forever just they are like 0-100 right now. But
Jason Tatum has been actually like really calm recently. like I'd say since his injury I haven't really seen too many corny things.
Yeah, okay, but whatever, this is just Sixers hate. But no, I think Jaylen Brown, I don't know where he's going to go. There's been a lot of different teams attached to him, and like what they're talking about, like the Clippers potentially and teams like that. But Jaylen Brown seems like he's going to be moved. We just don't know where. But that would be a huge trade, obviously. What team, like what are some teams that come to your mind when you think Jaylen Brown?
Honestly, it's tough, and I think the ironic. I don't want to say like he's stuck in Boston, because that isn't the worst scenario. But I think looking at the landscape of the NBA after the draft and after these trades, it's like tough to fully pick out where you think like he could go, because it would have to be a team that like and okay, going back to the Giannis trade. The prior to this, like Celtics were the team that we were constantly hearing. It's either Celtics, Miami, and there was a third one that came out of nowhere, and it was really like
I think it was Minnesota, wasn't it?
I think
Portland
Minnesota.
was involved too. Portland was involved.
I think he had lowered it down to Minnesota, Boston, and Miami.
Yeah.
And I think Boston, like the reporting that's come out, obviously it's been jumbled and everything, but one of the things is like Jaylen Brown was going to be a part of that package, but the Celtics didn't want to give up like one of their core
like
bench
Shireman
guys.
and guys like that, and like Hugo Gonzalez. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like, part of me gets it, but I'm also like, you just shot yourself out of the playoffs. Like, I think you could probably use a guy. Not that he's gonna help you with shooting, but like, come on, man. Like,
you don't need shooting when you have a 6'10" Greek god who's sprinting down the court full speed at you.
Yeah, I don't know. But what was interesting about the whole Jaylen Brown saga when all of this was that like when they were talking about him potentially going to Milwaukee, was that he was saying he could have been looking forward to like having his own team basically, which is something that he really, admittedly, he enjoyed during this last season when Jason Tatum wasn't out there. He said that was the most fun he's had in a season in the NBA, and I think that's because he was the lead guy. So when I'm looking at all these other teams that he may want to go to, I'm like, okay, well, what's a team he could go to where he would be the guy? And I'm like, well, the Clippers move on from Kawhi Leonard, which we'll talk about in a second. Maybe he goes there, or maybe he goes to a team like, I mean, I don't want to say Sacramento, but like, there's only so many teams right now that are like, okay, you come in here, you are our guy.
And that's why I look at this and say, like, it's tough because it's like there's a lot of like situations where you could send him to, like, and most of the time they already have a star there. Like you're looking at bottom feeders at this point, like respectfully. Like You want to go to the Pelicans and go run that team? Go do your thing. Like it'll be yours. Like the Pelicans, I think the Clippers to me is the one situation I can look at and say like if they're going that way and potentially you're including Kawhi and the Clippers are able to like I think that I would only pull the trigger if I was the Clippers if you get to keep Darius Garland because I look at this and say like I still think Darius Garland will work well with a Jaylen Brown where it's like he can be that playmaker and a second scoring option opposed to your main guy and have Jaylen Brown be the guy there.
Yeah.
But I am still curious about like entirely like what team is he looking at and being like I could go be the number one guy there and I want to go play there.
Yeah, that is a legitimate question. I'm like, when I'm looking through all these teams, I'm like, who first of all could make the trade and pay that money? But then it's also like, who actually like, where would he actually fit with what he wants and his play style and all that stuff? It's tough. I do think if he waited another year, there would be a better trade and situation out there for him. Yeah. Like imagine this is Galaxy brain like thinking way too far ahead and like this is so probably not going to happen. Like the Warriors a year from now, they have another bad season. Things don't go too well for them. Steph's like halfway out the door. Draymond, like all of that. Could you bring in a Jaylen Brown to help out with your team going forward? Maybe
definitely, but what assets? Or when is this?
That's why it's like Galaxy brain. I'm like I just don't I don't know where he goes.
For me,
especially with the trades that have already happened.
Would it be crazy to throw out a potential Portland situation where it's like they like if Celtics are like Denny for Jaylen Brown is a couple of like picks you mix in.
Denny in Boston, first of all, just would be hilarious. But
yes,
that I don't. The only reason I wasn't because that was one of thought that I had because they were so like initially involved with the Giannis stuff. I'm like maybe they pivot to Jaylen Brown, but my thing with Portland right now is the ownership situation. I don't know what the hell. I could make like a whole video about what the hell is going on there. Where it's like I'm starting to see red flags. Where I'm like, are they going to move this team?
Then they don't want to pay people. Have you seen the recent stuff about the head coach?
Yeah, they just put a coach on a 1+2. It's usually like you see like a 2+1, but a 1 year plus and then a +2 year option on the end is fucking weird. And it's like sending waves throughout the whole league because all these other coaches are going like, what the hell is this coach contract? It's sending them back. So
real quick on that, like NBA, like National Basketball Coaches Association President JB Bickerstaff called the unconventional structure of new Portland Trailblazers coach Micah Nori contract a slap in the face to our value.
Yeah,
and I can't blame him for that.
Yeah, and this is what we knew was kind of going to happen initially when they didn't bring in Thiago because they were like, oh, like they want to bring in someone on cheap. They were talking about paying like college basketball, like mid-level head coach money for guys coming in, which is why they were looking at college basketball coaches. But then, they ended up setting on our guy from Minnesota, who I do think he is like a good coach, and I hope he has some success there. But it was not even just because I like Portland like that, although less and less lately. This last year was tough for me with Portland, bro. Like they have all these players I like, but like organizationally, I'm just like I'm really starting to not like this team. They're getting harder to root for, if I'm being honest. But I don't know, man. Like I just it's shitty. It's shitty, and the Portland stuff is going to be studied for a while with what happens there because the end result is going to speak more than it. And if they do end up in my mind, and this isn't me like actually knowing anything, but like in my mind, when I see a coach or an owner of organization talk about, well, I think our new arena that we need should be paid for tax dollars from the locals, that to me is an immediate red flag of like, oh, he's probably going to try and move his team. Like this is going to be a team that's going to move it because sorry, Pacific Northwest teams, but this is kind of the playbook that happened with almost similarly to with the Seattle Supersonics. Shout out to your team. But, it's like the underhanded stuff of like, oh, well, I have to make all these cuts and do all these things. And, the money. Oh, like we need a new arena. We need the taxpayers to pay for it. I don't want to foot the bill for this, even though I have more money than 99.5% of the people in the world. Why would I pay for this, even though I bought the team? Whatever. Right? So,
great money.
Yeah, the whole Portland situation in general is where it's like that was the only reason why I didn't consider Jaylen Brown going there. But it is an option though, because it is like if you were to trade a lot of those younger guys to bring in Jaylen Brown, it could make sense. I don't know, but all right, let's move on to the next one though. When we kind of already mentioned that was the Kawhi Leonard stuff, because it seems like his first option would be to stay with the Clippers, but like we don't know if that they're going to be able to work that out and keep him there with the
Yeah.
money and the players that would be viable. So there's been talks about him moving on to another team. What's interesting is there's been teams linked to, obviously a lot of players, people would want Kawhi Leonard on their team, but the two reportedly that Kawhi Leonard wouldn't mind like signing an extension with would be Toronto and the Spurs, because if he were to get traded somewhere, it would probably be like 1 year left on his contract and he goes somewhere else.
Yeah.
Well, like kind of like he did his first time with Toronto. But it is interesting to me that he was saying like, okay, if you trade me to one of my two former teams, like I'll extend with them. I wouldn't just stay there for 1 year. So Spurs or Raptors, what do you like more?
From a Kawhi Leonard perspective, obviously you want to go. I think the Spurs makes the most sense.
Yeah.
With that being said,
Well,
I look at the Spurs and say like, are you willing to part from one of your? You're gonna have to give up at least two of your young guys. I think in a situation, and I think like Carter Bryant like would definitely I think have to be a part of something like that. So it's like, are you willing to go with Carter Bryant? Like I like, and I'm looking at like literally looking at the roster right now. And it's like, all right, I think Carter Bryant. It'd be way too much of an ask to ask for Stephon Castle or Dylan Harper. I think if they're approaching you about this, maybe I would say De'Aaron Fox is like on the table, but like they already have Darius Garland, so it doesn't make sense. I think if the Spurs look at this and say like we're trying to make this trade, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, and obviously of course Wemby are like untouchable. And 100%. I think after that it's like all right, like Carter Bryant, I would say is expendable because I think he can turn out to be phenomenal for them. But like I could definitely see like Devin Vassell and Carter Bryant being moved in a trade like this.
Would you rather move Champagnie or Vassell?
It's tough.
Or who would you rather keep, I guess, if you're the Spurs?
Looking at contracts, I think that's the big part of this as well, is that you'd have to actually sign Kawhi.
Yeah.
Contract-wise, Champagnie is making a lot less than Devin Vassell, like $27 million Devin Vassell to Julian Champagnie's $3 million, and obviously he's going to get paid. But either way, I think you look at this and say like those are players that like when you're looking at the Spurs perspective, they'd be like expendable to some degree. So I could see it. I think it makes more sense in a Toronto one because I think like they would have to give up too much where it's almost a lateral move where it's like I don't think get far enough. Like
I don't know, man. You get all right. I give you R.J. Barrett, Brandon Ingram. You give me Kawhi Leonard.
I still ask for more.
Well, yeah, there'd be more in that, but those are like the headliners for it. Because I do think them moving on from Ingram and RJ Barrett and basically replacing that production with Kawhi Leonard makes sense. Like that, I think that would work. And then I do think Toronto, like you got Colin Murray Boyles there who can fill in, kind of like come in for you. And then the center situation with the Toronto is what's interesting to me. But like if you have C&B and Scotty Barnes still there, then like they kind of like solve that almost. Like we saw in the playoffs that like what they did. So I don't know. Like I would like to see him more in Toronto, like fit wise. I think.
I don't know.
Although Kawhi Leonard can go anywhere and hoop. I mean, let's be honest. Like he just had one of his best seasons of his career this last season, carrying that Clippers team at times. Like it was actually insane. And then the threes that he was raining in this year, like off dribble and catch and shoot, like all that. Like Kawhi had a nuts season.
I think I agree with you fit wise when I look at this and say like I understand like Kawhi would be much better than I think it's not just because of like the value that they'd be giving up, but I think when you think about the play style that he'd have to play in San Antonio, where it's like it's Wemby's show there. I think, and that's my big question is like, are you willing to disrupt like the long term success that you're going to have? Like we talked about the meta earlier, and it's like I would much rather just be like, we're good. We have a nice young core. We're going to trust our developmental staff to get us there. We've seen historically that San Antonio knows how to develop these players. Like, let's trust this process. Let's go through this and let's continue to do this. So to me, I would much rather do that than potentially, set ourselves back. Not set ourselves back, but like jump the line a little bit and say like we're fully going in and like being you were, I don't want to say you were a couple of like, good De'Aaron Fox games from winning, but like you were right there in the NBA Finals. Like
you were.
To me, I don't think they need to make any moves like that and potentially hurt their long-term success.
I agree. Like I said, I think the Raptors would be the best one, but I don't know. It would. I don't know. If I'm the Clippers, I'm trying to keep him.
Yeah.
Like I think they are, but I'm just saying like I do still think the Clippers would be like the better spot for him, like,
Yeah.
for some reason. All right, let's do one more potential trade that we got to talk about, and that is what I've been calling the "Who Want Me" trade. Ja Morant. Uh, I just straight up, like, it's so publicly known that that Memphis wants him. Like, they're trying to trade him, but just the problem is like who wants him? Like, where would he fit, and what, like, who actually would take the chance on Ja Morant?
Who Want
Now,
Me is
I
so
do have
wicked,
one to
but
throw
it's so
out right
funny.
away for you.
All right, go ahead, hit me with it.
Charlotte.
It makes sense, but to go from one off the court, like troublemaker to another, I don't know. I think from that perspective, it's like we just dealt with that whole LaMelo.
Yeah, but
Ball
Ja Morant off the court stuff compared to LaMelo is like night and day. Like,
That's
LaMelo,
why-
you're like, oh, stop running people's feet over.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
please
what I'm
leave the
saying. It's
arena.
worse. It's like, we got past LaMelo, and it's like, you want who now? And we're like, yeah, I'm gonna pass.
The PR people are just like, oh, like, we already got number 0. Now we, oh.
Yeah.
It's like,
From a straight up just like guard situation, like I Dallas is a potential one for me. I look at them and say, like, they need guard help. What are you willing to give up for that though? And I think, like, when you look at that, it's like the Ja Morant like talk is like the fact that he hasn't got traded yet. It's going to, I think Memphis is going to start to get desperate a little bit, because it's like, I think it'd be really like not just hella awkward to keep him, but it doesn't do anything for your team. It actually sets you back, because it's like you clearly have this guy who's like, you're trying to move forward with this young core, and you're not going to, everyone knows long term you don't want Ja Morant. So it's like you're hurting your developmental process and guys that could step up and start to fill these roles and get comfortable in the starting lineup. So I think at some point, like, Dallas could hit them up and be like, hey, like, clearly nobody wants this man, like, or is not willing to give up the prices that you're asking for. Let's talk and get one of our I don't want to say, because, but then you look at like what would Memphis want from Dallas, because they already have a like, they just brought on Isaiah Stewart, so it's like you'd want, realistically, if a team is hitting up Dallas, it's like, we want one of your bigs, and Dwight Powell, maybe even
Dwight.
well, not Dwight Powell, but like, you get what I mean. I'm
Maybe your boy PJ.
PJ in Washington too. Derek Lively is who I was thinking of. Like, Derek Lively, I think would be like someone to look at that, and especially with the way Cooper Flag has been playing. I think you can find a way to get them both on the court at the same time, but I think Derek Lively like would be a part of something like that. So then you would think who would actually need to like want to fill that role. So that's why I think Dallas could be like a team that could do it, but it's like, what would you be getting in return, like, or giving up in return, I should say.
I got a couple more for you.
What happened?
I got a couple more for you.
All right.
One I'm surprising, actually, we haven't mentioned yet. Houston. Do you think Houston would be like, look, like, even though the 3-point shoot, here's the problem with it. A lot of teams are probably facing with Ja Morant. The 3-point shooting has been abysmal from what we've seen, like, the last times he's been on the court. Like, the 3-point shooting has been abysmal.
Yeah.
The injury stuff, and then obviously the out the court stuff. Like, those, I think, are probably the three. Do you agree that those are probably the three biggest factors, like, keeping teams from trading for him? So then it's like, does Houston just say, like, look, we just need a playmaker and a point guard in general, but then they also need 3-point shooting. So then you're kind of like hoping, Fred VanVleet comes back. And this is the other thing with Ja with me too, is where can he go where he would actually be given the reins and be a starter, or would he be okay coming off the bench for somebody? But I do also think maybe New Orleans, if they're looking for just like guard depth, and
New Orleans is always a team you can throw out there.
Because
realistically, they kind of make the most sense, because it's like they have assets to give up. Like, he can go play with
they're
Zion.
Trying to trade Trey Murphy.
Yeah, like you can. I think it makes sense. Like, I would say New Orleans would, like, as much as I would like love to see like him in Dallas, because I think it makes sense as having a guard there, especially like Kyrie's coming back from injury. You don't know what that's going to look like. I think New Orleans makes the best landing like site for him, solely because it's like he gets what he wants, and we all know like New Orleans isn't a serious team, so it's like, you and Zion can go team up, top 2 picks in the draft, and it's like, you go have fun.
I mean, yeah. Now I'm starting to think of Trey Murphy on the Grizzlies somehow if that happened. I don't know if that's a fair trade, but
maybe you get a third team involved. It's going to be like, but then like you don't know if the team, it's a mess in itself, and this is what the trades are all about.
Well, At least Josh still has one of the better shoes in the game, and he keeps releasing them.
Yes,
So I'll give
that's
him that.
the one positive as well. I bet his teammates are like, do you have to go? Like, you can still give us free jobs,
It's
right?
like I
Like,
appreciate, I appreciate the free Jaws,
free jobs. Like,
like the Jaws one that he was coming out. I was like, that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. But anyways, yeah, the Jaws stuff. I legitimately, I'm like, I don't know. Like, and clearly nobody else does either, because everyone's sitting around going like, who the hell is taking this guy? It's so sad too, because like 3 years ago, you're like, dude, this is one of the most exciting young players in the league, and now we're here where nobody seems to want him.
the who want me thing is hilarious to me, and I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I mean, it's too on the nose. All right. Okay. Any other trades or potential trades we need to talk about?
No, I'm all good on trade talk.
I think we had at least one signing we should talk about real quick, and that was Austin Reeves going back to the Lakers. After it being rumored that the Brooklyn Nets would be heavily involved with him, but obviously the Lakers had like first rights and all that.
I would have re-signed so fast with the Lakers if the Nets were like, "We want you." They're like, "What do you need?" Like, I'll cave into demands.
Yeah, go play with Michael Porter Jr. and Julius Randle, who, like I said, this sounds disrespectful, but like, go play with the Nets and that roster, or stick with Luka.
Yeah.
Like, come on, like, what are we doing there? Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we both think like agree you should have stayed with the Lakers, but what do you think this was the right move by the Lakers?
It's interesting because I think the biggest question on everyone's heads is like the LeBron aspect of this, and I think that's still where my head is going, because I think like the Lakers as a whole, like, it's like, yes, Luka is going to. I think he should be the focus for this team moving forward. But do the Lakers still value LeBron enough to be like, we want to go out there and keep you on this roster and continue to build around him, and even if at his age he's still going to be impactful in whatever role that is. I think they should just like, and I'm not saying this because I don't think LeBron's not good enough, but like, I think in order to move forward with Luka as their guy, this is the opportunity where it's like you're respectfully getting rid of LeBron and saying like, we'll let you go to Cleveland, you get your fairy tale ending, and we'll move on and move forward with Luka and Austin Reeves as our two guys, because I think that makes more sense, and you can build a roster around them.
Yeah, I think, and I'll fully admit this isn't my original thought. Bobby Marks on of ESPN made a great point about like, what do you do with LeBron if you're the Lakers? And one of the points he made was like, do you sign him right away and then make moves, or do you make all your moves as a Lakers organization and then try and sign LeBron? I do think it's the latter one, where I think as the Lakers, you should operate of like, assuming that you have LeBron on the roster. And I know that sounds bad, but like, assume you have him on the roster, but then fill out everything else that you would. Because here's the thing with LeBron, you're not building around him anymore.
Yeah.
This is Luka's team. So LeBron is an added addition as like maybe a third option for you, because it's Luka, Reeves, and then LeBron, right? And he was the one who was able to take a step back and be more of like kind of that playmaker for them at times and take over when he needed to. So in my mind, I'm like, first and foremost, if you're the Lakers, get a center, because Luka's made it very clear he wants like an A+ center out there to run with, and we've seen that when he has that, he can take you on a finals run. So I think first and foremost, you get DeAndre Ayton out of there, you get an actual center in there who can run and play with Luka, and then you fill out the margins like a little bit more like of the depth and everything like that. Move Bronny James back down to the third string, and then you see, okay, LeBron, like now we bring you back, and you're like the final piece of this roster, rather than the person who like we start with in the corner. Like, I'm thinking of like puzzles here.
Yeah.
Like, you do the corner piece, and then like he needs to be like the final centerpiece of the puzzle that you put in, as everything is around him and the ecosystem is already set. In my mind,
I like that idea. I think it makes sense, especially when you consider his age and what you're getting from him game wise. It shouldn't make sense to build the roster around him. Luka is your guy moving forward, and you have to think about that long term success. Which is like, I think that's like, I still maybe think it should just be like, you move on from LeBron and use the money to like sign other players and fill that role of free agency. But if they want to do the route of like using LeBron as final puzzle piece, I'm not considering complaint. I just think they'll end up probably just keeping LeBron because this is the Lakers, and they seem to just want to do this over and over again to the end of time and just sell tickets. So we'll see what it looks like.
Hey, the Lakers are gonna Laker.
Yeah.
All right. That is it for us with the trade talk. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about the draft and our thoughts on that with each team. All right, everybody, welcome back. We just got done talking about all the trades and potential trades that are going on within the NBA, and now we're going to go over the draft that just happened over the past couple of days. Excited to talk about that. There was a lot of fun picks that happened. It was regarded as one of the deepest classes in the NBA and maybe ever, but definitely in recent years. one that was highly anticipated with all the lottery picks that were going to be happening. We saw a lot of tanking for this draft, that's for sure. So plenty to talk about with this. We're going to try and hit through each team. Admittedly, like we were always upfront with everybody. Like we don't follow the NBA draft as much as we do like the NFL draft, but we're reading things leading up to it and going over and watching a lot of these guys after the fact. So we'll try and go through this, but we might not be able to touch on every team and every player that they got. Yeah. All right. So let's get right into it. How do you want to start with we're on alphabetical? Or how are you doing?
Alphabetical order, just because that's how it's set up on Tier Maker, and we have to follow Tier Maker. So Atlanta Hawks, 3 players drafted: Kingston Flemings, Zubi Ejiofor, and then Narcisse Ngoy in the second round. I really like Kingston Flemings. I think he'll be a great addition, especially post CJ McCollum, the Giants, or not the Giants killer, the Knicks killer on the New York team. I think he'll be really good, especially with his athleticism and everything I've read about him and seen from his time at Houston. He looks like he's going to be a dog for them. So for me, I'm willing to, and even Zubi Ejiofor from St. John's as well. Like everything I've seen as well, like seems like he'll be a great dog for them as a second unit. Like forward, and he's already played enough for you where it's played enough in college where you can kind of put him in right now and he'll be impactful. So for me, I'm leaning A tier for their draft, and I'd even reach for S tier, but I'll make it how you feel.
I'm a big fan specifically of the Kingston Flemings pick. Like I think that was fantastic for them for like what you said with like the CJ McCollum stuff. But it specifically for even for CJ McCollum this year, you bring in a guy who can kind of do a lot of what you want him to do, and he can learn from CJ McCollum, and he can be that second guard for you. He can be a primary ball handler for you if you need, and he's also like he's coming in already as like a two-way player because, like you said, coming out of Houston, we know how that coach is there and how he gets these guys ready for the NBA. So we know he's automatically going to come in as like a ferocious defender, but he's also already coming as a good playmaker. And then you're just hoping that his offensive game, which isn't bad to start, just continues to evolve and matches his defense along the way. And then you've got yourself a nice two-way guard.
Yeah.
So yeah, I loved what Atlanta did with that pick.
We good on A tier?
A tier, yeah.
A tier it is. All right. Brooklyn, Mikal Brown Jr., with the 6th pick, and then Isaiah Evans they got in the second round, and then they also added Tyler Bill Odo. I didn't like the Mikal Brown Jr. pick.
Okay, we're gonna disagree.
I think when you're looking at the value, I was really disappointed. And look, I think the Nets they were in the ballpark this year. I just think when you look at the players
in the ballpark, that's so.
I think Darius Acuff Jr. would have been a much better pick.
Okay.
I think he can come in and be impactful for you. And I know, look, the defensive liability thing is a big question mark. But I think when you've seen somebody score the way he does on offense, to me, it doesn't matter. You can build a roster around that.
Yeah, I disagree. I think Mikal, he could end up being like a really good lead guard for them, something that they've been desperately trying to find with so many picks over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
But I think they got it right this year with a guy who he has the size and the ability to be like a really good offensive player, and he can do stuff for you on defense as well. And I think the main thing with him is his playmaking ability. Just that I truly do think he can be an engine for the team with the passes that he has in his arsenal and the creativity that he has. I think this is why I said earlier in the show, why I was like, I liked these trades and these moves that Brooklyn has been making, especially post draft, because I think he fits well with like a Michael Porter and Julius Randle, where even Michael Porter out there on the wing, you can spray it out to him, and just hopefully that he continues to shoot the way that he has in recent years. So, like I do like this for Brooklyn. I think they got a guy they can go with going forward. Finally,
I still like everything you said is exemplified for me. I think Mikal Brown Jr. is going to be phenomenal, but I think when you look at the value and saying like Darius Acuff is still available for you there, I would have just preferred to go that route. But what you're getting from Mikal Brown Jr. is going to be phenomenal.
All right, so how do you want to rank it then? B?
I'll put B. I'll consent and go B.
Okay.
All right. Anything else to add on that, or?
No. That was all I had for the Nets.
I also like Isaiah Evans from Duke, which is why I'll push it up to B.
Okay.
All right, Boston. In the first round, they got Chris Sinak Jr. from Houston, and then added Dylan Mitchell in the second round. I think Sinak is going to be a great add for them. He did kind of fall, like just throughout the draft process from everything I was reading. leading up to this, but someone who can come in and play like that lengthy forward room for you, especially an area that they like have been trying to rebuild a little bit. Like their guard room is phenomenal with everything they have. I think he'd be a great addition and kind of step in and fill that role. So we know like Joe Mazzulla loves his, his. I think that just the development aspect of it and love to develop these players. And I think he'll be a great player that you can develop.
Yeah, I think he's going to come in and immediately be able to contribute with their team, like just off of rebounding and defense, which we know they value like a lot. And then it's just working on the third thing that they value, which is shooting, which he's not there yet, but he has shown in college that like there could be something there. And we know that, like you said, with Mazzulla, they're going to work on that with him because that's what they want from all their players for the most part. So, like I said, immediately comes in with athletic ability, like a young player who can rebound and play defense for you. And then you just work on his offensive game because he's 19 years old. So, like, there's time to work on that aspect.
All right. Celtics, where do we place them? I think it's good, but I think what holds it back from me is just the fact that he's still raw. But I trust that, like, once again, that we've seen the Celtic staff is going to develop these players, even if it's, undrafted to, the top tier. So I'm willing to say B tier for right now. And if we see teams that are better, we can push them down to C.
I like it.
Okay. Charlotte, they had 2 first-round picks and got Heinz Steinbach from Washington and then Christian Anderson Jr. From Texas Tech. From everything I've read, Steinbach seems like he's the best rebounder in this draft class and one of the best. And so for that value, I really like that. The Christian Anderson Jr. one is one I'm a bit more curious about and what that looks like guard-wise because, like, he's an undersized guard but can shoot the hell out the ball. So that's, always a value, and I think it'll pair well with the style of play that they want to play. But I am just curious about just the aspects outside of the shooting, which I think will hold him back a little.
Yeah, I mean, the Anderson one, it just makes a lot more sense now post LaMelo Ball trade.
Yes.
Like it's one of those picks for like what we've seen. And while he is undersized and there's all the talks about like undersized guards now, I do think based off of his shooting ability and his passing ability, because if you looked at his numbers, like he didn't turn the ball over a lot being the main guy, like taking care of the ball for his team in Texas Tech. So it's like, if he can continue to bring that to the NBA as well, be that engine for them, create for them, not have to be the primary scoring option, but having that ability to, like, with the range that he has as a shooter, like, I did think that was a great pick. And then adding just another center to the Charlotte Hornets team, like, who could, between Kalkbrenner and Diabate, who can just rebound and play physical for you. I think that's also, like you said, like, if you're already adding that to your team as well, I thought they were both really good picks for them. So I actually think this might be A.
Ooh,
I could concede to B, but we're God.
I'm gonna put them high B.
Okay.
We'll range it that way. All right, on to the Bulls. The Bulls, I think, had a really solid one. They had 2 first-round picks: Caleb Wilson with the 4th pick, and then Dylan Swain with the 15th pick. I really, really like Caleb Wilson. I know the hand injury kind of set him out the later half of the college season, but everything you were seeing from him like up to that is phenomenal. Like he is an explosive athlete, like who like plays with that high energy play. Like I was seeing like Kevin Garnett, like young Kevin Garnett comps from him, from some of the top ESPN people. So I don't want to go that far to say it, but when you look at how talented this draft class could be, I see the potential to be that guy for them. And I think he is a player that can come in and be that franchise for you. And it's not a guard. So I'm very proud of Chicago once again, like this new era that they're in. And then the Dylan Swain ad as well. I really like that. As someone who can kind of fill I don't want to say fill the holes that Caleb Wilson doesn't bring, but has a very good size, 6'8", and can do a lot of the similar things, but just a little bit different skill set as a better scorer. So I really like that addition as well.
I agree with you on both fronts with like both their picks right there, especially Swain. Like you're gonna want to develop his shot, obviously, but he's another, like both of these guys are gonna be able to come in and contribute like right away, especially Wilson. But like Swain could come off the bench for you and just be a defensive wing, but who's like highly athletic for you, who can finish at the rim. And then I'm already thinking of like a lineup with Swain, Buzelis, and Wilson attacking the rim could just be so fun to watch. Like and Giddey just kind of like racking up the assist on lobs to them or getting the baseline cuts. Like this is what I'm saying. Like you said too. Like you didn't get guards, but you got two athletic like forwards who can fill a role for you. It's like I really enjoyed that pick for them.
Yeah. I'm going to reverse my statement. I think Caleb Wilson has the better offensive output potential, but I think the length that you have with Dylan Swain is another aspect where it's like that to me is the potential. If you could develop his confidence and get that to work a bit more, that makes a bit more sense to what I'm trying to say. But either way, I think this is A tier. I think Atlanta still had a better draft, so I'm going to say right behind them, though.
Okay.
Next up, Cleveland. They had just one pick, Alex Caravan.
Who then they traded to Sacramento. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are. What do we put them at? If you don't have a draft pick, can we actually rank you?
I would say we leave them.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't count.
We'll put you in a separate tier. I'll create that in a minute.
Yeah, because we're not looking at a second round for this anyways. So.
Dallas, Merez Johnson, and Koa Pete at the end of the first round. The Merez Johnson one, I've seen like it's interesting because it's like obviously they have a new head coach in Dusty May who is from Michigan, so it makes sense to go this route of like, all right, you're going with he's going with his guy, but what you're getting from him is a great value of a tough like long pause big man who like has the athleticism to be able to like swap and be effective on the defensive end. The offensive end is the big question for him, and you need to develop that a bit more. So I think they did reach a little bit on him because of the Dusty May connection, which is why I would kind of knock this down a little bit more in my books. But either way, it's like you're still getting a really talented player. I just think the value is a bit too high for me.
Yeah, I didn't mind. Yeah, I didn't mind the Johnson pick. Like that one was fine to me. The Koa Pete one was a little bit more confusing to me because for me with the Mavs, I was hoping they could add someone with like shooting more. Like, and I do think Johnson like great defender and he'll fit alongside well with Cooper Flag. Koa Pete, I'm like, yeah, he brings a lot to you defensively and he can do stuff for you just like as a wing, but he has no 3-point shooting. And this team is almost like the opposite of the Bulls, where you're like, you needed guards and you needed shooting, and you didn't really get that with either of them.
And I think that's the tough part about this as well, where it's like you could have a young guard come in and sit behind Kyrie and learn from one of the greatest in the game, and you went like two forwards. It's like that Koa Pete one, I think, especially. But he fell a lot in this draft process.
Yeah.
Like he was someone that we were seeing like pre-draft, like and even pre-start the season, like in lottery odds. So for him to fall to 30, it's because of the raw potential. And a lot of people are saying he should have stayed a year. I'm kind of in the same boat from everything I've read. You're getting someone that you're going to have to develop a bit more. And then it's a lot of development, whether it's Merez Johnson's offensive end or Koa Pete's just entire game and refining it a bit more. Not that he's talented, but you can clearly see that he just needs more polish. So I'm going to go C.
C's fair.
C's fair. Okay.
Because I don't hate the players. It's just more of like the team fit.
Yeah, you need to develop, and it's a patience type of thing. But if they're giving Dusty May the leeway to be patient, I'm all good with it.
I will say the Mavs are going to they could potentially be a very good defensive team.
Yeah. Denver's in a kind of same boat as Cleveland, where it's like they added Tariq Reed Jr., which I was like, great ad, and then they traded him to San Antonio. So we'll talk about that later. Detroit, also in that same boat, drafted Kareem Lopez and then traded him. Golden State clean pissed me off because they were right before OKC. They were right before OKC, and I was like, Yaxel Lindenberg is right there. I was like, I have a feeling they're going to pick him, but I was like, he would be a great addition to OKC, where it's like he can bring a lot of the size. And we talked about like not just like everyone was looking for the Wemby stopper, especially in the Western Conference. And we've seen that like it doesn't necessarily work. Like you have to attack him multiple different ways. We saw the Isaiah Hartenstein method. We've seen a lot of wings on him. I would prefer the lengthy wings, and I think that's the J-Dub role. And I was like, Yaxel Lindenberg is someone you can bring off the bench to play the J-Dub role. And because he's a bit older, he has everything that like he's a bit more refined than these other prospects. And I personally saw him. We actually both saw him when he was at UAB and was playing against in the American Conference tournament. And then I'm like, next year he's like, oh yeah, he's going to Michigan. I was like, Michigan? I was like, he was killing Temple last season. So
Yeah, we saw him in person killing people.
Yes, like literally, like he ran through the American Conference.
Yeah.
And obviously the big talks were like he's older than everyone, and I completely understand it. But
Was it? I'm sorry not to interrupt. Was it when they played? Did we watch them play Memphis? Is that who it was?
I don't know. I
forget
just
who
know
we
that
saw
like
to watch him.
I just know that he took UAB to a champ, like to the American Conference Championship.
It
Like,
was one of those guys where you watch and you're like, oh, like he's different. Like, you could just tell. You're like, okay,
his versatility. I know the age is going to be a big deal. He's turned 24 this year, but I still think the value that you're going to get from him and someone who can come in and play impactful minutes for you right away is perfect for what the Warriors want. So I don't want to say H here because
I was gonna say this was my first S one.
really,
It's for a lot of what you said, but I think it needs to be emphasized. Like, he is one of the more NBA ready players coming into this draft. I know the age thing like freaks people out, but first of all,
it is exactly what the Warriors need though, because they're a team that needs to win now.
They are a win now mode. You bring in a guy who can contribute immediately right away, and I think he can be. I'm not gonna say he's gonna be an elite defender immediately, but he will be a great defender right away for you. He's athletic. He can fit that role for you. It's not like you needed him to be a shooter exactly like that, but like offensively, he's still gonna bring stuff with you as he expands on that. And I just think, yeah, with his wingspan, what is his wingspan? Was it 7'3" or 7'4"? Either way, it's freaking nuts. He got a lot of like Aaron Gordon kind of comparisons, and like while he won't be able to shoot like him, like I think if you're getting a guy like this immediately to put in there next to Draymond Green in that front court, defensively, I think this is a huge help for the Warriors and what they need right now, and that's why I think it's like an S tier pick, because I'm like, they got like a guy who it's like he could have some of the biggest impact on his team right away.
Yeah, you've convinced me. I have to put him there. I will say my final two things that have cracked me up so far is that he's kind of dissed both Stephen Curry and Draymond Green.
Yeah,
and especially Draymond Green. Draymond Green was really funny because he was like, oh, they were asking him about like the jersey. Him and Draymond both wearing 23, and he brought up, of course, the Michigan State rivalry. I was like, yeah, not like, and it was so funny because I was like, yeah, like everything we've seen. If I encourage you, if you haven't heard of Jackson Lindenberg up to this moment, please just look up the fact that he is not media trained, and that he will say anything on Instagram Live, especially with his Michigan teammates. And I find a video that cracks me up every time, and I will not elaborate by any means, but it is very funny. All right, over to Houston. In the same boat as the three previous teams, where they just traded away their first round, or they didn't have first round pick, and then they traded away their second round picks. So they do not.
Yes, I will say though, because Houston did trade for a guy that the Knicks picked for the first pick in the second round.
Yeah.
Because it was Bruce Thornton, who was a 6-foot guard who's gotten a lot of comparisons to like Jalen Brunson. I'm not exactly sure like I would compare him like play style wise, but a lot of college experience, and he's a small guard who, like, we know Houston needs guards. So like in a sense of like, is this the right player for them? I don't know, but like positionally and like need wise, like I didn't hate them making that trade for a small guard like this. But yeah, I think you're right. NA is probably the right one there.
All right, so they're there. I added Indiana there as well, since they didn't have any draft picks. They didn't. How did they trade? Well, they traded technically. It is part of the Zubac situation.
Right.
And speaking of Zubac, this was the pick for the Clippers, and it was Keaton Wagler at number 5. I really like this. I like the value that you're going to get with him. As someone like, ironically, who, speaking of the Pacers, I've seen a lot of Tyrese Halliburton comps, and so I really like that. I think the versatility that you're going to get from him, it's one of the, like, literally one of the notes that I wrote down, is that I think they came away as one of the better like backcourt fits with Darius Garland, and I really like that long term for them.
No, I completely agree. Like his IQ, his passing, and then his size and his height, allowing him to shoot over what he would most likely be like smaller guards on him at times, and the range that he has in general. I think you're right. Like, especially if you're going to move on for Kawhi Leonard here, if you can keep Darius Garland and pair him up, like I do think this is a good pick.
Yeah. When you saw that breakout game that he had 46 points in a March Madness game, I was like, I'm fully there. And he hit 9 threes in that game. So I look at that and say, like, the ceiling that you're going to have with him is going to be insane. And to get him at 5, I think is great value. And if you can just, the biggest thing, of course, with like these guards is like you need them to bulk up a little bit. And they always say that, but you don't really fully know until you get to the NBA level and you see it against the competition. So Yeah, the knocks of I think about him, and I've obviously read up a little bit more on him. Is that like he's not as explosive or fast, but to me it doesn't really matter. Like, and because he does it so well. You mentioned the IQ aspect, where it's like it's a lot of great basketball moves to get himself open, opposed to like using his explosiveness and using his athleticism. And I think for me, like I much rather prefer a guard where it's like they may lack the athleticism, but they have the basketball IQ and
Yeah.
the skills to get themselves into like create a little bit of space. Like Shea isn't a very quick guard. Like he's just very effective at creating space for himself and just enough to knock down his shots. So I'd rather have that than someone who you need to work with and develop the more basketball IQ type of thing. So I really like this. Um, Fit wise, where are you at with this?
I was I was thinking B.
B,
Like
okay.
probably like after for me after the Nets, for you it's probably before the Nets, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I would put him before the Nets.
I'm cool with that.
Okay.
I'm cool with that.
All right.
Okay.
Next up, we have the Lakers, and they traded their pick, so ignore this. That'll be
Oh
ending.
well, no, yeah, but they traded him for a guy that was drafted right before them, so I'm kind of counting them as in this because they got
Okay.
Cameron Carr,
Oh, you're completely right. I it doesn't
and
show.
I was excited to talk about this because I actually think this was a great pickup for the Lakers. You get
Ooh,
finally they get an effective 3-and-D wing who can attack the rim and who could be a spot up shooter for you with like he's got a really good smooth like quick release. So like you got to think about everything about the Lakers is Luka. So you're giving Luka a rim running 3-point shooting 3-and-D wing. Like that sounds great to me, and he's got the size for it. He's got the athletic ability, and I think he'll only continue to develop. Like a lot of his work is done like driving sort of to the basket. Like I think he'll be great immediately at like like a baseline lob threat or just like a catch and shoot three guy. I don't like the ball in his hands. Like he's not the most creative guy, but like I think he has the ability to develop that along the way.
yeah,
But I
he's
think he can come
21.
in.
Like you can work with that.
Yeah, and then I think he'll come in and immediately contribute to this team like right away and help out Luca like with the athletic ability that he has in the shooting.
Yeah,
So
I
I
think for
actually gave
me
this one an A.
an A. Ooh, I
I
don't.
might be too high on Cameron
Yeah,
Carr. I did think he was like one of the like more underrated prospects in this that I read about, but
I don't think it's better than the Wagler pit for the Clippers and the value that they're going to get right away. Because I think the biggest thing that holds him back is that like what are you getting right now, and then
I
compared to
think
long
you're
term.
getting a lot from him right away.
But like I don't know if he's as consistent though. Then that's my big like thing that's holding me back with him.
Okay, all right, I'll go before the Nets.
Okay,
Okay,
all right, Memphis. I think this is S tier. I'll just come out and say
yeah,
it.
go ahead. Yeah, S tier.
Cameron Boozer, Kareem Lopez, and the value they got him at, like to me, perfect. Cameron Boozer is a number one overall pick in any other draft class, and he was there. It was talks at the very start of this, and then it became AJ and Darren Peterson time, and then we kind of just saw like him slip out. It was you were like, wait, like he's going to be the third pick, like that's crazy because his value and what you're getting him at, and post Job Morant, like post Jarrett Jackson Jr. He's going to be the guy for them, and he can step in. And you saw how dominant he was at Duke, not just throughout the regular season, but we saw it in the March Madness tournament. One and done, like he's everything that you would want in a prospect, and it's a reason why he was in the top consideration before AJ officially declared and everything. So I think not even that, and then you add Kareem Lopez, who's was literally like they mentioned it during the broadcast. It was like, oh yeah, he couldn't even make the NBA, like what's name because he was playing overseas and like getting
Yeah,
that experience, and I will always like kind of value that, especially because
two
you kind
years.
of what happened?
He was overseas playing professionally for 2 years.
Yes. So that value alone for me, like it makes it insane that he was able to kind of fall for them, and then you're able to get someone who can has that pro level experience already, and they were mentioning that he played against an actual NBA team. I'm blanking on which one it was, but
Oh, crap, was it the Clippers that went overseas over
I
there?
think it might have been. It was a team that visited overseas and he played against them and had a good game. So it is crazy that like we're getting to this point talking about like a player like Lopez being pairing alongside Cam Boozer. I think this is a phenomenal like draft class for them.
Yeah, and for me, the main thing with Kareem Lopez is like, dude can guard like 1 through 5. It feels like he's highly athletic. So it's like, yeah, like for a late first round pick, adding him in there alongside Cameron Boozer, I think you're right. Like, I think he's a great pickup for them. So
Yeah.
I S tier, yeah, 100%.
I'm putting it above the Warriors too. Like for right now, I think
No, I agree.
two players,
Yeah.
kind of outs is Lindenborg for me. All right,
Okay.
Miami Heat. They just had a second round pick, so
We'll put NA for them.
NA for them as well.
Because they traded all their picks to Milwaukee, who we have next.
And who we're talking about next, Milwaukee
Yeah.
Bucks. They added Braden Burries and Nate Ament. Nate Ament he's kind of like, it's weird because, when we're looking at this, like even when we do NFL draft, like there's always some players where it's like, they're just very like divisive, I should say. Like I'm hearing a lot of different things about him where it's like, he is dumb young. Like he is 19. If you look at him, like you would still think like he's a high schooler. And I kept looking at him like during the draft and I'm like, he's 19. Like, can we get an ID check on him? Because he looks like really young. But I like on the Braden Burries edition, I really like that. And especially what like post Giannis, what things are looking like. It's going to be like really interesting. And I think getting someone who can, be both a offensive and a defensive threat for you and develop into a confident two-way guard. I think Burries can be that guy for you. The Nate Ament thing, I'm fully kind of like, I don't know what to expect because I've constantly read that it's like the length and size that you're getting from him is great, but he's 19, needs to develop him a bit more and just kind of refine him. So I'm a bit kind of split on the Nate Ament one.
Yeah, the Nate Ament one for me mainly is like working on the shooting, I guess.
Yeah.
But like I can see the upside there. But I did definitely love the Braden Burries pick. Like, a guy who can play on and off ball as your guard. He has good size. He can already score seemingly like at every level. And like the main thing that I've seen that he needs to work on really is just kind of like getting others involved. Like I guess you would say like playmaking, but like I didn't think he was a bad playmaker. I just think like sometimes it was like he was too score first, if that makes sense.
That makes sense.
But like I do think like for the Milwaukee Bucks, I think that's a great pickup for them.
Yeah. All right, where are we gonna put them? It's kind of divisive because it's like you clearly still need Ament to work.
I would go right there.
All right,
top of C at the moment.
Timberwolves also were in a situation where they just had two second round picks, but I do like the Isaiah Evans one, and for him to fall out of the first round as someone who was projected to be a lot higher, I think the value that you're going to get from him as like he's a little light, and I think that's the biggest issue. But I think the value that you're going to get from him and what we saw like him playing at Duke, like I think he'll be really good.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna still put them there because they didn't have a first round pick.
Okay.
The Pelicans also didn't have a first round pick, so
which might have been like I love Derek Queen, but this might have been a good thing.
And I think that's what makes the Atlanta aspect of this a lot higher too, is that they actually kind of hit on theirs, like because and I think that makes it worse for New Orleans, which honestly we should put them in D tier.
Yeah, go ahead and put them in D. Let me make this very clear. I love Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears. They were two of my favorite rookies last year. I'm very, very high on Derek Queen. The process and how they went about it was ass, and then watching Atlanta make good picks after that for the two is like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, New Orleans deserves some kind of shame in this.
All right. The Knicks are actually in the NA boat for sure.
They traded everything.
Yes. And then we get to OKC.
I'm just going to let you take this one.
Yes. Adai Mara was the great, like, to me, I think this draft class is A tier for me. And yes, there's a lot of bias as an OKC fan, and I trust Sam Presti with my life. With that being said, I still there's been a lot of talk about Adai Mara being this like Wemby stopper. And like I said, I don't think that's necessarily what you're getting from him. Well, yes, I think you are necessarily getting someone, especially like the value that you can do, like when he's fully, like the biggest thing for me is post Isaiah Hartenstein. I think this is what you need to think about. And especially with the contract situation getting kind of tight, I'd be comfortable letting Isaiah Hartenstein walk now that you have someone like Adai Mara who can play that big role for you and play those Isaiah Hartenstein minutes. And especially when it comes to Chet, like Chet is better at the 4 when he's not that 5, like trying to guard Wemby. Like let him, you can do a lot of different things. Like, and I think that's the biggest thing.
It's like the Anthony Davis problem.
Yes. And I think like you can do a lot more now moving forward long term, because as much as everyone wants to like ship Chet away, you're not going to be able to get away, especially with the contract and the fact that like he still like was phenomenal for you. in the regular season and actually playing games for you, which was a big knock for him. Whereas like he was having inconsistent seasons of like he's missed his whole rookie year and then he's missing games. Like to me, like this was a good season for him altogether. So I just look at this and say like he's your guy moving forward. You got somebody who can help him and alleviate some of the pressure on him. And hell, he could be that Wemby stopper for you if you want to go that far. I still think, like I said, like, and we talked about this, I think Jalen Williams is a much better Wemby stopper when he's fully healthy and isn't, that first game of the Western Conference Finals where it's like, go play 40 minutes, like, and go out there and guard that man fresh off, your first game back out from injury. That to me is why I think they lost the Western Conference Finals. But adding Bennett Sturts as well, like the shooting potential and like a post Isaiah Joe guy as well, like where it's like these, once again, like Thunder do a good job of setting backups in place to be like, all right, you're going to walk, like, the contracts are getting too expensive. Like we got someone who can come off and play impactful minutes. Like you still have Jared McCain. You just added him. So like he's still on his rookie contract. Like, all right, like Isaiah Joe, they're probably going to let walk, as unfortunate as it is. But Bennett Sturts is a good guy who can come in and bring that 3-point potential to you as a straight shooter and a phenomenal shooter, one of the best in this draft class. So for me, I think it's A tier. I don't want to put it above Atlanta or Chicago just because those picks are literally changing the franchise a little bit. But I'll say behind them if that's okay with you.
Yeah, I mean, I was more leaning towards B, but like I can accept lower A if that makes sense.
Oh, okay. I'll take that.
By the way, we do need to go back to Detroit because we forgot that, like, while they didn't make the pick, they did trade for one of the picks because they got Ibuka Okori.
You are right.
I'll talk about it real quick. Like a small guard, like they needed more scoring, and they just needed more scoring. I mean, in general, but like especially at the guard position, someone who can help relieve Cade Cunningham. I do think he's a guy who can, like, while his size is like he's a smaller dude, like 6'1", I think he is.
Yeah,
he can come in for you immediately and like help you score because like at seemingly every level, like he's more physical than he looks at his size. I think he'll just have to be better at sometimes like finishing through the contact, but like the scoring is there and the instincts are there. So I do think I honestly I thought it was a C, but I didn't think it was like a bad pick in any way. Like I think they helped address a need.
How about like right here?
That works for me.
Okay. I was reading like ESPN's like the actual like full trade, like full draft one, and it only shows that they traded it. Okay, we're all good though. I swapped to like here's their actual like all their picks. All right, the Magic are up next, and I literally there we go. They just had a second round pick and Isaiah Nelson. It was a higher kind of second round pick, so I'll just very briefly say like I think it's a good addition. Someone who can bring. Isaiah Nelson is a big man for them, 22-year-old, so they can still develop him a bit more. But I think he like the biggest thing is that he's in a weird position where it's like you're getting someone who can't shoot the ball. And in today's NBA, it's like you need to have that versatility. So that would be my biggest knock with him. So I'm going to see how that kind of plays out. And I did see him ironically play because he was from South Florida, and he's pretty solid. So he has good game. But I seriously do question what it looks like at the NBA level, trying to be a versatile weapon. So I don't want to put it in D tier because they're not New Orleans, so I'll say bottom of C tier.
Wait, hold on. My phone was going crazy. Did a trade just happen?
I hope not. I'm taking a look.
Oh, okay. Never mind. God damn it, Shams.
What?
We got freaking...
Oh, Mark Williams.
Yeah, Mark Williams notification. Oh. All right. Anyways. I mean, good for Mark Williams, but that's not what I was looking for.
Had me scared. All right.
Yeah. I'm on edge. I'm going to wait for it. Oh, okay. Bet. Yes. Love this pick. I don't know how the Sixers keep doing it. I really don't, but they keep finding these guards that I love in the 20s of these drafts every single time, whether it be Maxey, McCain, Edgecombe was an early pick. But then now, LeBaron Philon Jr., which such a great name. Philon. If you've ever seen Chappelle's show, there's a bit in it about Dylon, the rapper. And I'm going to be saying Philon's name like that for forever. My only complaint about Philon so far is his number choice because he's going double zeros. But explosive, creative, great scorer who, after his freshman year where he could have came out and probably been picked like later in the first round, came out this year anyways, worked on his game while at Alabama, like only increased everything with volume. got better at shooting, finishing, all of that. He's got a nasty attitude about him, which I think he'll fit in well with Maxey and VJ. And what's great about him is he doesn't have to come in and start right away for you, even though I think he could start on a lot of teams in the NBA. But he can come on and be your bench guy, which we know the Sixers needed the bench depth. I think this is and he's not bad on defense either. I think he'll get better at it, but I do think like he comes in right away as like a solid enough defender that you're not going to be worried about him out there. So with the scoring and that aspect of it and the playmaking that he can also bring to you, which could relieve pressure off of both VJ and Maxey, I think I thought this was at the very minimum like an A tier pick.
Yeah.
And especially for the value of it, where he was a guy a lot of people had projected like top 10.
I will say I'll give you an A tier. My biggest and real quick, phenomenal. I think it's a great pick for what they need, especially when you consider like the usage of Maxey and VJ Edgecombe. He's someone who can take that usage away from them, and you don't have to worry about like Maxey playing 40 minutes a night when you can have somebody like Philon come off the bench for you and supplement those minutes, so you're not seeing you're not seeing anyone else that you don't want on that court for you. I didn't want to even bring you trauma of bringing up some of the names anymore.
Well, yeah, one of the funniest things I saw after he got drafted was, hey, LeBron, I'm a Sixers fan, big fan of yours now. Loved you in Alabama. For just a few questions. Are you allergic to peanuts? Do you have a disorder where you're going to forget how to shoot? Do you have an inkling or like a desire to become a professional fisherman? Thanks. Get back to me and let me know. I was just like, Jesus.
I get it. I understand it. So yeah, I think he'll be great. The one question or a concern I would say is just that like you supplement somebody who can take the Maxey and VJ Edgecombe minutes to help them. What about the big room? What does that look like? And I think that mostly would have been addressed with a second pick that they would have had, but they traded it away. So I think that's where it's like for what they got, and you have to just play it straight up with like what they had and the value that they got Philon at, and even just like hearing like all the reporting after, which trust me, like living in Philly and working at Dinkwire, I hear it all. Like I think it's a great pick here. So I'll say A tier as well.
Real quick, some W news. Mabry has 27 points in the first half.
Hey,
Jesus,
she's on an unrivaled tear again.
Good Lord. All right. Next for the Suns, nothing, right? They
didn't
have a pick.
So we made a mistake. They were the ones that actually ended up with Kola Pete.
That's right. Okay.
In a trade. I felt weird. Like it was off.
Yeah, I was like, so traded to Phoenix via New York. Okay.
Yeah. So where do we want to kind of put that at?
Honestly, low C.
Low C.
Yeah.
For honestly, kind of for the same reasons that we talked about Dallas. Like,
it just. All right, I could go higher than that. I'm not as high on him as maybe others are, I guess.
I'm gonna move Dallas up now that we because they don't have Cole Pete, and then I think the Morez Johnson aspect is still a good add for them. So I wouldn't put them above Orlando though. Or maybe I would. Okay. We'll leave it at that for now and then come back to it. Trailblazers actually didn't have a pick, so they are in A. Kings. I think Darius Acuff is a great ad for them. And they were the ones that also read through it. Now, they were the ones that ended up with Alex Caravan, who could come in and play substantial minutes for them. Someone like who's ready right now. This is the Kings, and they're not really like that. I think that's where I look at this and say like that's the tough part of this is that like they don't have the roster construction right now where it's like you can have Darius Acuff be Darius Acuff and you have to worry about the defensive liability that he brings as well because they don't have the suitable roster around him where you can trust like help defense to be like a good thing. Like it'd be different if like the Spurs are a good example where it's like if like this is last year and like they say they didn't have Dylan Harper and they were able to pick up a Darius Acuff, like it would like that is a system that he would thrive in because it's like you don't have to worry about help defense when you have like Stephon Castle, Wemby as a floater, and like all the other weapons that they have like that can come off the bench and like Carter Bryant or something. So that's where I look at this and say like they're kind of setting him up for failure because they're the Kings. But at the same time, it's like the value that you're getting from him, I think, is phenomenal. So it's tough there.
I love this pick because I love Darius Acuff.
Yeah.
And I think while he may not be the best rookie in this class right away, I do think 3-4 years from now, we'll be talking about him as like one of the better guards that comes out of this draft.
And that's what makes me like not like the Nets pick, because it's like the value that you have here for Darius Acuff it's phenomenal. So
I mean, he's a great two-way guard who can score at every level. Though you worry about his defense, like you said, but like you can work with that. Like you can work with that. I mean, you had a guy who scored. It wasn't 50. It was like just about 50 against Alabama in that tournament, wasn't it? Like he went crazy at one point. And it's a John Calipari guard that is gonna come in and work hard, I think. So, dude, I'm sorry, it's A. It's A for me.
A tier.
It's A. You can put him below the Sixers, but it's A for me. Like I am that, and then because it is the combination of Acuff, of Acuff and like the later pick, but like it is to me like I love what the Kings did here, and the fact that Acuff wanted to go there because his dad has connections with the GM. Like that's not all of it, but like I'm saying, like I think it's A tier.
I'll allow it. All right.
I'll allow it. Thanks.
San Antonio. They had 2 first-round picks after they traded for Tariq Reed Jr., who we mentioned already, and then they added Jaden Quantiance, who he was another weird one that I like in the pre-draft process I was hearing about, because it's like, from what I hear, this man is a straight demon on defensive end, where it's like the length and size that you're getting from him is insane. And I was watching some of his clips, watching like everything, and I was like, it is insane. He has absolutely zero offensive bag. Like it is solely go out there and play defense. Like, and I think like ironically, like for me, like this is a weird thing that I think, like, I don't know if you like play enough basketball, like I pick up basketball to understand this. I'm not even trying to like take shots or anything, but like when you like, you can tell like the best defenders to me because they don't play basketball. Like they don't know them. They don't know people's, and it's weird, but it's like, for me, it's like the hardest people were like to play against were people who just don't play basketball because they don't know moves to fall for it. Like they can't fall for a pump fake if they don't know that you're like, that's like, you know, the skill set or like a thing. They just solely just follow the ball. So like for me, like that is like literal hell. And he plays like that, where it's like he damn near plays like a football player, but the size and length that you're getting from him is insane. But then you know, the offensive bag is an issue. He's going to miss time because he has to have another surgery. He had a torn ACL already in college. The injury history is like really shaky. So it's like, and it helps that San Antonio is a team where it's like, it's a good landing spot for him because you don't need him to come in and be impactful right now. Like you have,
especially because they got Tariq Reed as well.
Yes, exactly. Who can play that role for them. They have Carter Bryant, who can also play that developmental defense role. So I look at this and say, like, I like this for him in the landing spot. I just question what the long-term fit is and if the injury history is going to be an issue going into the going in later into his career. So I it's tough because of that, but I think the Tariq Reed pick makes me feel a lot better about San Antonio's draft class.
I like both picks. My first thought when they made these 2 picks was immediately like Luke Kornet like really like traumatized them.
Yeah, Luke Kornet and Harrison Barnes are gone. I was like, yeah, you like they were sick of like not having like crazy depth. Like they said that.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, we needed someone who could come in and fill in for Wemby at times to help protect this goddamn rim instead of Luke Kornet, who's getting drove on every single possession when he was out there for the 3 minutes they could afford. So now you bring in these 2 other guys who, like, one of them is more of a project, obviously. With is it Quintains or I thought that was how you said his name, but
Quintains sounds probably better.
Okay, but then Reed as well. Like Reed can come in and contribute for you immediately as well. And the good thing is neither of them have a lot of pressure on them to start or be out there too much. So I was gonna put them in B tier for these.
I think B tier is fair. I just like, I think injury history is a big like I know like this. I'm one of those people that like leans on the injury history is crazy and you should take it into consideration. Like I was the same way, just with the NFL draft. But I'm okay.
I should be more concerned about that as a Sixers fan, but
yes, not to.
It's whatever.
All right, next up, the Raptors. They took Allen Graves from Santa Clara, and it's funny because they showed a graphic when they picked him. And it was like the last Santa Clara, the last Santa Clara draft pick in general was Jalen Williams. And before him, it was Steve Nash. And and they were like, and of course behind him it was like two other people who were like from the '80s or something. So I was like, dang, like Santa Clara, like they have a successful like hit rate of just like pretty solid players when they actually do get there. But he very much feels like, ironically, like another really good forward, kind of like Colin Murray Burrows, who they can Boyles, excuse me, who they can kind of put in and just like someone who can especially shoot the ball. Like the man has shot 41% from three. Like I think that's the biggest thing is the versatility and having a long, like lengthy forward like Colin Murray Burrows, but kind of an offensive bag that's a bit better.
No, but like the thing is like it's kind of like what we saw with Cameron Carr. It's a little bit different, but like I think he can contribute right away, like on defense,
Yeah.
and then also like his ability to space the floor is immediately great for Toronto right there because that was something that they were lacking. Especially we saw that in the playoffs. So you bring in another young guy like this to grow and develop with Colin Murray Boyles. I'm sure Scotty Barnes is going to be ecstatic about this. Like you improved the Toronto defense and you added shooting. So I thought this was at least a C tier, but I'd also be okay with B.
I'm honestly like B. I think San Antonio had a better one. Maybe I'm gonna put them there, and
Okay.
then we'll put them B for now.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, Utah. They had the
I
number
mean,
2 overall pick, and they took Darren Peterson.
that's
I think
true.
it's A tier because it's like this is exactly what they need to kind of build a backcourt with Ace Bailey. Darren Peterson, like as we saw from Kansas, straight elite, just score. And I
Mhm.
think that is the best thing, and you don't have to worry about him on the defensive end where the issues you may have with Darius Acuff. So I think he does everything that you would need for a team, and it's why he was a consideration for the number 1 overall pick for so long.
I mean, an effective two-way guard who has the size where you could even play him at the wing. His shooting is unbelievable with the volume that he had and the efficiency that he had. It was insane. And I also think, man, like his playmaking is really great at the same time. And then this is why I think he should be S tier. The mid range that he has is like dead eye, brother. Like, and I think that's what's gonna like help him stand out from some of the others here. It's like the scoring aspect alone, but like the what he can do in the mid range on top of the just the long range shots. I'm a big fan.
I
It's
like
unfortunate that he went to that team, but hey,
his mid range is up there, and it's funny because of the players that he modeled himself after. You understand why it makes sense. So I think not only like from his skill set, that like just based off his skill set alone, it's like A tier. But the fit as well for me, where it's like you have Keontae George, Laurie Markkinen, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Ace Billy to build him around. I'm fully set. I'm fully set. So I'll put it just behind Memphis, just because Memphis had 2 great first round picks. And finally, Washington Wizards, number 1 overall pick, and they took AJ. Yeah, and look, I will say, like when they said his, and this is a whole thing that they made a big deal about after, is that like instead of AJ, he went by his like full like government name, which is also his father's name.
right.
And like when they like said that, I wasn't expecting it. I was like, no way they messed this up. And he said Diamond Times. I was like, oh, okay, okay. I was like, that's just like that's what AJ stands for. I was like, oh, okay. Like genuinely scared the shit out of me because I was like, no way the Wizards mess this up. I was like, I should have been, I wouldn't have been surprised like after a second thought, but um, I like this man has been campaigning to be the number 1 overall pick. And there's a reason why, because of everything he was able to do at BYU this past year, but even at the high school level, what we were seeing from him, like this draft class was phenomenal, and he is the main reason why. Where it's like you have so many players like him, Darren Peterson, that were in consideration for his number 1 overall pick, and the fit that you're getting from him as a versatile wing who can do everything for you and your team. Like it to me is like it was a I don't say it was a safe pick, but I think especially after they added Trae Young, I was like, I think you have to go AJ for the fit of him and Trae Young opposed to a Darren Peterson and Trae Young fit. So either way, I think like this was a phenomenal pick.
I think right away he'll be really, really good for them. His scoring is like you have nothing to worry about. Like, yeah, you could probably work on his 3 point shot some more, but like
Yeah.
his ability to just get to the basket, score at will in the mid range, and then also get to the line, like he's gonna put up numbers for you in that sense. He can play defense, he can guard multiple positions with his athletic ability and his size and length. Like it really is one of those guys where it's like between him, Boozer, and Peterson, you're just kind of like nitpicking, like because they're so like good and ready made coming into the NBA. Like we don't get drafts like this often where we have this many top tier kind of players here like available for you within those like top 3-4 picks. So the fact that he was the number one guy taken and that he fits so well with the Wizards and the roster construction that they already have, like and especially I'm curious. We don't know if Anthony Davis is going to say that, but even if he doesn't, I still think like this could be like. And you already know I'm high on the Wizards going into next season.
I'm starting to get there too. I'm not as high as you are, but
yeah, but like the bands that added to that roster that I was already going to be high on going forward. Like I thought this was a great pick, and I think you do. Like it sounds dumb because they had the first overall pick, but I think they got it right, and I think for what he projects to be, we can probably put that as an S.
Yeah,
but especially since we put Memphis and the Jazz there. So,
all right, I'm liking how we're looking.
I think we did a good job here. I think it's funny that we got New Orleans in
there. I think like the Derek Queen stuff, like it's still shaking out to be like what were you?
It's just the process. This is the thing. Like I love the players. It's just the way you went about getting it done. It was just weird. And shout out Dumars, but whatever. All right. Anything else we need to talk about with the draft?
No.
Okay. Well, unlike Richard Jefferson, I am not going to end this on an awkward note here for you. But thank you everybody who's a listener and watching to us. We appreciate everybody who's been watching us talk about the basketball. We'll have more football content coming out as soon as the offseason gets more rolling here. And then, of course, we'll have more W content pretty soon here because we've got to talk about some of these players and some of these games. I think the game of the year just happened earlier this week. So definitely want to talk about that with you. But thank you, everybody, again. We really appreciate it. And we hope you continue to watch and listen to us.